Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Friday night here at Heavy Metallurgy. I am one of your hosts, Alan, from the Let's Talk Metal channel on YouTube. Good to see you folks tonight. Hope everybody has had a good week and is ready to settle in, grab a drink, grab something to eat, and just talk about some cool metal stuff for a while. I am joined, as always, by my most excellent co-host, Marty. Marty, how are you doing tonight?
Doing quite well, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's been a long and busy week, but we've made it through it. So, this is one of the best parts of the week. Everything is done for a couple of days, and we just get to dig into a fun metal topic
Yes.
and forget about all the other stuff for a while. So, let's see. Probably got a few announcements we should make this time. I think it's already sold out, but if folks are interested, Austin from Panopticon has a new shirt that's available in the Panopticon store, and the proceeds are going to help charities that are assisting people in Ukraine. So it's a nice charity. Austin, I think, was covering the production costs for the first run of shirts. So everything except for the shipping cost is going straight to charities to help people out over there. It's obviously a pretty bad situation. So if you're interested in helping out and getting some cool Panopticon merch in the deal, you can go check that out. Again, they may be sold out or maybe only certain sizes are sold out.
He might be putting more up too. He said he had to put more up because it was selling so well. So this is all pre-order stuff. I'll print them
Yes,
when the final order's in, but
sure.
yeah.
Yep, but yep, that's something for folks to definitely check out if you'd like to contribute to that. Let's see, Marty. You've been on some streams recently and about to be on some more. You want to catch people up on your
Yeah.
streaming activities this week?
Last this Wednesday we got my band The Glorious Dead together. We've been doing the Glorious Album Club. We're trying to style it after like a book club type of thing, and it was our second episode. We covered Borknagar's Universal. Not typically a big turnout on Wednesdays, and a topic that focuses on one band typically doesn't go over well, but it was fun. If you're bored, you want to check that out, definitely go there on the Heavy Metallurgy thing and check it out. And also tomorrow night over on Metal Madness 66 channel, myself, Matt from The Dark Path, Devin from Maze of Torment, and Jeff who is Metal Madness 66. We will be doing a deep dive, one of Jeff's deep dives on Voivod, the catalog of Voivod. We're going through War and Pain up to The Outer Limits. It'll be a part 1 and a part 2, because part 2 with 4 people would go on for a million fucking hours, and I don't know if any of us are really up for that. So yeah, that's coming up. Metal Madness 66 channel, all one word. And yeah.
And that's tomorrow night. Do you know what time it is? I don't remember off the
Tomorrow night at 9:00.
9:00 tomorrow night. All right. So, folks, you've got fun stuff to watch right now. Then tomorrow you can go back and watch the Borknagar stream from Wednesday if you missed it. The guys did a really nice job going through that album, I thought.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah, everybody was really comfortable, had a good time with it. And then tomorrow night, you've got even more Marty on the YouTube. And that's obviously a really fun group to have to discuss Voivod. The four of you did a great job on that.
So. Like a bad rash. Mel asks, I did not know there was one. What do y'all think of the new Blind Guardian single that was released today? I have not heard it yet.
I have, thanks to my wife. She stumbled across it and was like, ooh, check this out. New Blind Guardian song. So, yep, it is posted. Pretty good. Only got to hear it once this evening. It's the typical video where it just kind of shows clips of them in the studio working on, recording music. But first impression is it's a pretty strong Blind Guardian song. It's in keeping with what they've done in more recent years, but I instantly liked it more than most of the stuff I heard from their last studio album, Behind the Red Door, I think was the name of it. I don't even remember the name. It didn't make a real good impression on me. But yeah, it seemed like a pretty solid Blind Guardian track. I will definitely go back and spin it some more. So yeah, thanks to the wife for pointing that out. She's probably listening in the back right now.
I'll definitely have to check it out. We should get your wife on here for a power metal special. Do you think she'd do it? Come on, Mel.
I don't know. That's a fair question.
She could be our guest some Friday night. It'd be killer. We could pick a band she wants to talk about, like Nightwish or something. We'll crush it.
Yeah, she might. I will broach the subject. She'll either be very into the idea and very excited, or she will throw things at me and tell me to crawl back into my man cave and leave her alone.
If you guys are wearing matching clothing, I will be leaving. Just saying.
Okay, so 2-person podcast, right? What if we have matching Blind Guardian T-shirts?
Oh,
Not
that's
saying
fine.
we do, but in theory, if we did.
Yeah, no, that'd be fine.
Because we have, I don't think we do. We have seen Blind Guardian together twice. We've seen Camelot together twice. I think we're usually pretty good not to buy the same merch, though. Usually, I can't make any promises.
Yeah, I'm gonna get everybody caught up here saying, "Hey, how you doing, Phil?"
Yep, lots of folks filing in for the night. Good to see folks. Hey, Rick. Metal Mayhem is in the chat. Did want to say shout out to Steve. We did a trade recently. I'm not going to be able to discuss these tonight because I haven't played them, but Steve sent some cool looking singles. They're on my yet to play pile. But yeah, he included these. He traded me an Atlantean Codex shirt for some CDs and vinyl that I had around. So thanks to Metal Mayhem. I will get to listening to these. I've just been way behind on my listening and also very busy. But yeah, we've got Witch Hazel, Borrowed Time single, Borrowed Time, and also Eraser with somebody on the back whose name I'm not able to read very clearly. But yeah, should be cool ones to check out. So thanks to Metal Mayhem 77 for the really fun trade.
Heavy Therapy says he's been spinning Worm, Antichrist Siege Machine, Sepul Cross, and Atmospheric Doom from band from Portugal. Cool. Hey, Wade, what's going on? Yeah, yes, Rick, I am the stream warrior this week.
Yep, some other folks. Yeah, Tim Saunders has a really good looking playlist. Lots of cool vintage stuff that Tim's been spinning. Stuff like Black Witch, which I had not heard that name in quite a while. They had the album art on that Out of Control album. Cool. If no one's ever seen that, it's worth checking out.
Brian, I just put the channel for the Voivod deep dive in the chat. It's Metal Madness 66.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jeff does really, the Metal Madness channel is run by Jeff. He does
look at this.
Good, very extensive deep dives.
Depends on the band. Cheers, Mel. All right. We'll get you on.
Okay. Yep. The right power metal band, she can definitely go deep on some of those.
Well, we could do a deep dive on the Lost Horizon albums. That would be fun.
That would. Let's see. There's just the two. There's not a third one.
Yeah, that wouldn't be. That necessarily wouldn't be a good Friday stream, but I could talk a long time about those.
We'll find. So she was actually saying today, like, you guys haven't done a Blind Guardian episode yet, have you? It's just like
we could do that. I think I've got all of them except for one, maybe.
Mm-hmm. So yep, that would be a good. That might be a good one for the three of us to tackle sometime. We shall see.
Blinded Inside. Why do you live in the middle of nowhere up there in Michigan? Well, it's just an accident of birth, I suppose. Boy, a lot of people. It's good to see everyone. What's up, Kellen? Binging Candlemass since last week. Cool, man. That's been the fun part about this this show, this channel stuff. It's been inspiring people to check out things we've been talking about, which is, we were going to do this anyway because it's been fun, but if we can get some people to turn on to our way of thinking, maybe it's even a little cooler.
Or just get some folks to check out some bands or learn a little bit about bands they've heard of but don't know that much about. Gives them a good idea of where to start in the catalog. Hey, Kellen's in the chat. Hey, Kellen. If folks don't know Kellen, he is with the Killing for Company YouTube channel.
Yep.
Kellen does really nice videos. He does a nice job of editing them together, and I'm pretty sure it was just this week he put out a nice retrospective on the early Skullview albums.
Oh shit, I missed that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That was one of those bands I remember when they came out. They made some noise in underground circles. I never really got around to checking them out, so it was really cool to hear Kellen's perspective on those early albums. Because yeah, that's one of those bands that just slipped through the cracks. There's so many out there to hear, you can't check it all out. So it's just like, oh, cool, that was a great topic for Kellen to cover. I'm really glad he did that one. So that's another one, folks. You've got your homework for the weekend. A lot of folks making some good video content lately. Fun stuff to do if the weather's not going to be so great. Down here in the southeast, it's pretty wonky today with some pretty nasty storms rolling through. As long as you don't lose power, you can stay inside and listen to lots of cool metal content here on the YouTube.
We also got Melanie Loves Death Metal in the chat. Everybody go check out her channel. Melanie Loves Death Metal. She does a great job. S&T Young. What's going on, man? Yep. He's got a good channel as well. Shows a lot of really killer old records. He's an old fart like us.
He's had some really good stuff in his collection updates lately. So yeah, all kinds of cool stuff he's been showing off.
Well, everybody, I just want to say that tonight I'll show them first and get them out of the way because I'm swinging back around on a Halloween marathon. So
it's coming. We might as well just do it right away.
Just enjoy it. That's all I got to say. But let's talk about what we've been spinning. We haven't done this in a while. These typically go over pretty well, and I've just got piles of shit stacking up, and it's good to maybe get some stuff filed away after we talk about it.
Yeah. Some of these I've shown off in box opening collection update videos, but I hadn't played them at that point. So now I can I've given these some spins, and some of these I've got things to say about. Some of them I have questions about. So maybe folks can help fill in some blanks where I've got some things that don't quite make sense yet. But Marty, you want to go first?
I can. Let's just get this out of the way. I'm back on the Halloween wagon, and these two have been the ones I've been gravitating towards. We got Rabbit Don't Come Easy with world-class artwork, and The Dark Ride, which is their attempt at heavying up their sound a little bit. Obviously, they were a little bit influenced by the grunge thing, although it doesn't sound like grunge. They just down-tuned a little bit. But Rabbit Don't Come Easy, the standout tracks were Open Your Life and Never a Star. Big fans of both of those songs. It's a good album. Mickey D plays drums on this. He's a sessions drummer. This one, a very dark album. Like I said, there's some standout, more commercialized songs. If I Could Fly, Mr. Torture. But then you have the song, what the hell is it? The Departed. Favorite song on here. Great song. A lot of emotion. A little unique for them. Heavy, well written. These guys, even their so-so albums, they can just write a good song. They may have a formula they stick to, but there's so many songwriters in the band at this point. It's a nice there's a nice variety in the dynamics and the way the songs are structured. It's cool. Love it. Again, Halloween. That's it. I won't talk about them anymore for the rest of the day. Maybe.
Never heard of them. All right, let's see. I'll start with a cool piece of vinyl that got a bunch of spins about a month or so ago. Picked up it's sort of Obsessed by Cruelty, but this is the Wax Maniacs pressing. It's a 2 LP set that has both the Metal Blade version and the Steam Hammer version.
That's kind of cool.
It's really cool because it's sometimes something that you run into. A lot of the CD pressings, it's not always clear which one was used for the recording. Most of the time, it's almost always the Metal Blade pressing. There are some unofficial CD versions that are supposed to have the Steam Hammer version, but then you look at it, or it's supposed to have the other pressing, and you look at the track list, and it's like, wait, but it's also got the tracks that are only on the other pressing. And it can be really confusing. People tend to mislabel them a bit. So it was really nice to have them in one package side by side, because there are differences for sure. This isn't a matter of just adding one bonus track. It's there's some different differences, and even as soon as you do the introduction on side A, it doesn't sound the same at all. They're on red vinyl. I thought it was kind of cool too. They kind of did a little bit of a rip-off / tribute.
Right.
The Metal Blade one has a Metal Blade-ish logo, and the Steam Hammer one has a Steam Hammer-like logo on it too.
That's cool.
So yeah, a neat package. This isn't really that old. I think it came out in 2016. It is sadly annoyingly expensive already. I guess it was a relatively limited run. This is the kind of thing I really do wish folks would do a little better job in printing in quantity. I understand the label doesn't necessarily want hundreds or thousands of extra copies laying around, but
it's a crapshoot. I mean, we've run into it with like the
yeah,
first Panoptico. We did 1,500 and it wasn't enough, and we
yeah,
just repressed another 1,000 and they're almost gone too. It's just like, but
yeah.
you don't want to go and put 5,000 out and then all of a sudden it doesn't sell and you're stuck with more debt and shit to line your garage, your basement walls with. So anyway,
Yeah, I get that it's tricky. I mean, something like this, where it's a pretty known quantity, you're putting, you're doing a good job putting it out. You probably know it's going. It's a safe bet that it's going to go over well.
and it's cool that they put both mixes on there.
Exactly.
That's a cool thing.
That's what, makes that particular pressing really, really nice. You know, if you only had one or the other, yes, you could go buy the other original press, but those have gotten very, very expensive at this point too. If you don't already have them, so it's not a cheap thing to pick up unless you luck into it somewhere. But if you like the album, and I do, and you want to have both versions very clear so that you know exactly which each one sounds like, you can line them up, and I will literally sit there and play like one song off of one, take it off the turntable, put the other one on, play the same song. Just
you need a DJ setup, 2 turntables, go in between. That's what you need to do.
Yep. I have to expand the operation a little bit for that. Maybe one day.
It looks like you shocked Record Mass. It says, "Wow, never would have imagined you were into early Sodom, Alan."
I like the early Sodom stuff quite a bit. The up through Persecution Mania, I like quite a bit. After Persecution Mania, their stuff's not bad, but it got a little samey. I'll go with the albums aren't bad, but they kind of like it's kind of average for me. But yeah, no, Persecution Mania, Obsessed by Cruelty, and In the Sign of Evil, no, very cool stuff. Like it quite a bit.
Festered Awful.
Surprises.
Festered Awful says, Marty, have you checked out Grosskoff's Shock Machine? I've never heard of it. It's another band, I'm assuming.
Oh, it's one of Grosskoff's side projects. I recognize the name. I've never heard any of the music. I just remember seeing it it was something he did on the side at some point. So something during his downtime when Halloween's not active.
Right on.
I don't even remember how old it is, but the name rings a bell.
What's up, Jurgen? Everybody cheers to Jurgen in Germany. What's going on, man?
Cheers to Jurgen.
And since Jurgen's here, his favorite band, I'm going to talk about them right now. I ended up a couple of weeks ago, we did the Glorious Album Club, covered the latest Avantasia, and this is the Mystery of Time, a rock epic. I got this as well, cheap, like $3. And this is a bit better than the one we reviewed. Moon, what the hell is it called? Moon something. Moonglow. Ha, yes. This one's a little bit darker. Kiska again pulls in a really wonderful vocal performance on this. I have not looked to see who's even on this. That's Tobias Sammet, Jolyn Turner, Biff Byford, Michael Kiska, Cloudy Yang, Ronnie Atkins, Eric Martin, and Bob Catley are the singers on this one. Not much to say. It's less meatloafy. It's just a good, solid, theatrical, power metal-ish album. A little bit of influences here and there. I liked it.
Good deal. And for the Ronnie Atkins fans out there, he had a solo album come out this week, or maybe it's coming out next week, but I forget the title of it. But yeah, there's another Atkins solo album out there if folks are into his sound. Always liked his voice. I've not heard a ton of his solo material. I know the Pretty Bates material better, but he's always had a good voice, like his performances.
Jurgen says, "Okay, then, good night."
If you made Jurgen go to bed this early, you know you've done something wrong.
Right. Yes. Okay, Alan, what you got?
All right, I think somebody had already mentioned this one in the chat, so I'll second that. I have been playing the Worm for Everglade.
I haven't listened. I got it. I haven't spun it yet.
I've only gotten to play it a few times. I haven't really gotten to sit down and dive into it. The local stores, it took them a while to get it in, so I didn't get it right away. I could have ordered it, of course, but I knew they would get it. There's a couple of stores around here that always tend to get stuff from 20 bucks spin and those labels. So I was like, I'll just wait and buy it when you get it. And so sure enough, they finally had it. It's got a very cool sound. It leans more into the sort of death doom, funeral doom vibe than their previous work. I don't know their catalog very well, but it seems like they kind of slightly reinvent themselves on each release so far. And this one's got more of a funereal ring to it, but they're doing it in a very good vibe. While I like some funeral doom, it does have a tendency sometimes to drag too much. It gets going too slowly, and you just kind of can get boring. But the first few listens of this, it doesn't do that whatsoever. They do a good job of keeping the songs very interesting on it. So again, with more listens, I might have more in-depth commentary here or have a different perspective on it. But on first impression, yeah, this one's gotten a decent bit of hype and seems like it deserves it. It's a cool release, and definitely if anybody else is kind of on the fence or hasn't checked it out yet, it is a good one. Don't be turned off just because a lot of folks are talking about it. It seems to definitely be a really strong outing. So kudos to Worm. It's a band that's working its way up through the underground, or maybe working its way down through the underground. Which one's good? They're doing the good direction, whichever one that is.
It all depends if you're a half full or half empty guy.
I guess I've never can figure out. Like, do you want to be at the top of the underground, or do you want to be like deep in the underground? And especially if you're in a swamp like Florida, it's like, hey, doesn't matter. Whatever they're doing a damn good job of it.
You start getting to be my age, deep in the underground starts to take on a different kind of meaning. Yes.
Well, it is funeral doom, so.
Mel's chiming in saying, Alan, Ronnie Atkins' new album was released today. It's called Make It Count.
Make It Count. Okay. I thought it was today, but yeah, I could not remember the name. So thank you, Mel. You've got my back as always. I appreciate it.
Metal Mayhem 777. Marty, do you like the band Stormkeep? Yeah, in fact, it's in the stack here. I'm going to talk about it here in a little bit.
Cool.
So be patient. It's coming. All right. Jurgen was half full yesterday. What do we got here? We're going to go next with, I can't remember where these guys are from. Sweden. Blazing Stone. This is Damnation. Yeah. This started out as a Running Wild tribute band, and it still is a Running Wild tribute band. It is, I would say, with this album, they're doing Running Wild better than Rolf is at this point. I like Running Wild still, but these guys, they've got the sound and the feel. And one thing that they have that Rolf doesn't seem to have anymore is a little piss and vinegar in the structures and the dynamics. Rolf is kind of mid-pace to slower. Plod, this is got more up tempo. I mean, there's the plod, but there's also an up tempo. It's good. It's good stuff.
That's their newest one, right?
Yep, this is the latest one. It's a full band, so there's a drummer, which I think it's kind of obvious Rolf is. I mean, live he has a drummer, but recording wise, I think he just uses a drum kit from hell or whatever. But yeah, this is a good album. All their stuff is good. I've got 3 others of theirs still in the shrink wrap I haven't cracked yet. One's a live album. I think I've got them all at this point, but yeah, it's just I've acquired so much crap. I haven't had this one. I did make a priority on. I've been meaning to get this for you, Alan. I just keep forgetting to do so. So
oh, no worries. Yeah,
hold off on buying it because it's pretty good. I think you're gonna like it.
Yeah, I need to pick. There's a couple of theirs I haven't got around to getting CDs of. I always end up like one item short in the Stormspell shopping cart, or it's like the shopping cart is nothing but Blazing Stone. It's like, do I really want to buy 4 at once? That's going to take forever to listen to. And then it's like, but I should shut up and do it sometime.
Right.
But yeah, excellent. Yeah, excellent band, and it's one of those rare cases where the tribute band actually is right there, almost as good as the real deal.
Right on. Okay, Alan.
All right, a couple more vinyl ones, and then I'll get into some CDs. Recent trip to local record store, found a couple of Scorpions albums that were kind of neat and were not very expensive, so I had to pick them up. This one is kind of neat. It's just like a sort of a best of, but it's a Greek issue from the mid 1980s. It's just called Best, but yeah, all the liner notes that may not show up, but yeah, the liner notes are written in Greek, so kind of was just a neat thing. It's got a very good track list. It's all tracks from this era of the band, the '80s, Animal Magnetism, on up through Love at First Sting. So I mean, there's no real deep cuts on it or anything like that. It's got Rock You Like a Hurricane and stuff, but it does have like Holiday from Love Drive. It's got is there anything else? When the Smoke is Going Down is one you might not expect. Dynamite, Make It Real. It's a very nice track list for a best of that era of Scorpions. It wasn't very expensive. I like that era of the band a lot. It was kind of a cool Greek LP. Not something you're going to come across in the wild very often. So I was like, yeah, I'll pick that up. And then the other one I picked up is Fly to the Rainbow. Their second
What a
album.
stupid album cover. I got that on vinyl too, and I just look at the album cover. I'm like, what the fuck were they thinking with this? What does it even mean?
Well, I mean, it means it was 1975, and progressive drugged out weird shit was the thing. So you can get away with giant flying purple astronaut with propellers boots, because why not? Oh. I picked this up because it's one I had never owned a physical copy of. I've had it on digital files. If you're not familiar with it, the band, kind of had to reinvent themselves after their first album, Lonesome Crow. The whole lineup, essentially, except for the two main guys, had left. They kind of joined another band. They adopted the Scorpions name because Scorpions had already released an album, which was more than this other band had done. So it's like, okay, Scorpions back together it is. But yeah, it's got some really great tracks. Speedy's Coming is one of the faster, more up-tempo ones from that era that's good. Drifting Sun is one I've always liked quite a bit that is very emblematic of this era. It's got that more laid-back 70s, little psychedelic touches to it. Very much, you can tell it's an Uli John Roth song for sure, but it's a very cool one. It's got They Need a Million. So yeah, some cool stuff on it. You don't hear many tracks off of this one get attention anymore. It's far enough back in the catalog that, yeah, most of the time, best ofs or Sirius XM, they're not going to dig back this far, but there's some cool tracks on it. And again, these were not expensive. I liked a lot of the tunes. I like buying from the local shops when I can to support them. So it's like, I will gladly take those two Scorpions albums off your hands. No problem there at all. Good band sometimes. And I've been noticing some folks have talked about the new release. They just had their latest album come out a couple of weeks ago, Rock Believer. Metal Mickey did a nice review of the album. I've heard half of it. I didn't get all the way through it just because time constraints, not because it was bad. So yeah, overall it's gotten some positive reviews. Folks seem to think it's a decent sort of return to form. Scorpions have kind of, I think, been off of a lot of people's radar for a number of years at this point. But yeah, if you haven't been paying attention but you like their older stuff, do at least check out Rock Believer on YouTube or some free platform, and yeah, see what you think. You might be pleasantly surprised.
How does Klaus sound?
He still sounds pretty good. He does not sound perfect. You can tell. I mean, he's got to be in his early 70s. If he's not 70, I'll be surprised. Somebody in the chat, right, please correct me if I'm wrong. If he's only mid to late 60s, but there is some age in the pipes. But he does not sound bad. He's not lost his voice. It's not like he can't sing. But you can tell maybe he's having to work at it a bit to get it there at this point.
Huh. Jurgen said, where did this go? In Germany, everyone wears propeller boots. What's so funny about that? Okay.
That's why you lost the war, Jurgen. That's why you lost the war.
Okay, next up. We've got Well, this is two members of Blazing Stone, Rockarollas. People have been telling me to check these guys out. I did so. We got Metal Strikes Back and Pagan Ritual. I was quite surprised how good these CDs were. Obviously with the name like Rockarollas, you're thinking it's more of a Judas Priest worship. I didn't really get that from this. It's just really good heavy metal, really good, solid, well produced. The artwork's cool. You got the muscly guys holding their hands over their heads, a couple different ways, muscly. Yeah, very cool. Have you heard these guys, Alan?
I have not. I've heard the name quite a bit, and yeah, I was never sure what to make. I'm thinking, is this sort of an early Judas Priest tribute thing, or what? So yeah, I'm curious now.
Decent. I've listened to both of these multiple times, and I didn't hate them. They're kind of longish. I mean, this album's got 12 songs, and the other one's got 8, but it's really solid heavy metal. I mean, the guy knows his shit. He wears his influences on his sleeve, of course, but that's not a bad thing. A lot of people in the chat. Good to see everybody tonight.
Yep. Hey to Jeff. Hey to Mike. Everybody's hopefully having a good evening. Checking out some cool stuff on everybody's playlists lately. Definitely in the chat. Post what you've been listening to as well. A lot of comments coming through, but we'll catch them as best we can.
Right on. And Alan is up.
Okay, so moving about as far from Scorpions as I can get. I had never really checked out this band. I'd heard a few things here and there, but they've been around for a long time. A couple of CDs showed up in the local used bin really cheap. When they get to $5, and if I'm the least bit curious, $5 is usually the price where I'll say, shut up and take my money. Because if I don't like it, it was $5. I can take that hit. And having listened to these two albums, the jury's still out a little bit. The band I'm talking about is Behemoth. Had ended up with this one, which is Demigod, and also this one, which is 2 albums later, Evangeline. Again, of course, Polish band, started as black metal, became really a death metal band. People still list them as Black and Death. Other than the aesthetics with the face paint and stuff, there's really not much on here that sounds like black metal anymore. It very much sounds, pretty straightforward death metal. They've got a big catalog. These were just the ones that were in the used bin. So okay, those are the ones I'm finally jump in and see what I think of some Behemoth. And they're kind of interesting. Nurgle has, of course, this thing. He's very into all the Anton LaVey sort of mysticism, philosophy stuff. So the lyrics are kind of interesting for a band of this style, and they tend to have these little snippets of text with each song in the booklet where Nurgle expounds on whatever alchemical or philosophical or magical idea is supposed to be represented in the song, which is at least kind of interesting. As someone who likes to sit down and kind of peruse that stuff, it's okay, that's a lot better than the typical band operating in this Black Death style that's just all, blood, guts, and Satan, every song in and out. So it's kind of interesting to follow along to. At the same time, Black and Death metal is not my wheelhouse. It's not a genre I know real well. And so kind of on 2 minds. It's interesting, but I'm not sure if this is stuff that will come back around or if it's just going to sit on the shelf for a long time. Both albums are fairly good. The vocals on this one are really weird. And in looking to it, apparently Nurgle was trying to do some kind of weird vocal processing effect. It makes the vocals sound very, very odd. It's a little annoying to me, at least. So I played that one a few times. I'm like, this is kind of interesting, but I can't get past this vocal delivery. Let me check out the other one. And yeah, he didn't do the same thing on this album as, just a normal sort of vocal production. And it sounds much better, in my opinion. The aesthetics, and the lyrical contents are all pretty much the same. So yeah, interesting for, Marty are you familiar with Behemoth? Am I listening to the right part of the catalog? Did I pick up the worst possible things to introduce myself to Behemoth? Because yeah, my jury's kind of still out on where to go with these or what to do.
I have a fan of the early stuff. The last album of theirs I bought was that Storming Near the Baltic, and it's very Emperor-esque black metal. The earlier stuff is a little more cultish black metal. It's good. Then they evolved into that era there, and then they got real techie death metal for a while, and they started shedding the black metal stuff. It's talented and good. I just never find myself listening to it. Even the black metal stuff, I did enjoy the black metal stuff quite a bit when it was coming out, but that's just a band that kind of slipped through my fingers for some reason.
Yeah, they've always I never avoided them for any reason. They just never, again, I've never really had a chance to sit down and check them out. When they had a new album come out, it's just like, I'm not going to buy a brand new release by them, but now that they were in the used bin. So again, I kind of like it, but it's also a style that, yeah, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if 3 years from now I look at the shelf and just like, oh, yeah, I do own Behemoth albums. Huh,
it's a mood thing for sure.
It could be, but again, it seems like it's interesting enough that I might circle back around to it. I probably will at some point check out the earlier albums just to see what their black metal period was like in comparison. But so yeah, kind of wading gently into the waters of Behemoth to see what that noise is about, and it's at least it did not make me immediately turn it off and feel like, fuck this. This is way outside the wheelhouse. It's good enough. It's good enough to keep.
You're talented. It's hard to not like it. I mean, it's talented, but it just depends on if you're in the mood for it. That's the crux of that biscuit for sure.
Yeah, it may just be. And again, it's a style that I don't visit very often, so I don't have like a lot of points of reference either. I can't say like, oh, they're obviously borrowing this style from or this band, or they're emulating this album, in a similar vein, because it's not a style I know very well. But that may also be why I'm finding this one to be kind of interesting, because I don't know it very well.
Right.
All right, back to you, sir.
Well, I finally got around to picking these up. I got Savage Grace.
Oh, good.
Master of Disguise, and I've also got After the Fall from Grace.
Okay.
They're both 2 CD sets. They were reissued recently by Fall Again Records, I want to say.
Yeah, they've been pressed a few times in recent years, so it's a little hard to keep straight.
This CD, the actual CD is pretty good. The bonus CD is very borderline cock rocky. I was kind of surprised. That kind of was
it's later material.
Turn off, yeah.
Yeah.
This was the choice material. Alternate covers, of course. But very much, you're saying Kenny Powell's in this band. He's not listed in either of these albums.
He only played on the first EP, the Dominatrix one. Yeah, he was out of the band fairly early.
Okay. These guys have got a good singer, and it's in that early US power metal style, just kind of street metal type of stuff, and not necessarily, when me and him, Al and I discussed this. American power metal is a different cut than the European power metal for sure, but these albums are good. I wasn't super in the mood for them when it's when you see it, you buy it. And I've had, between you and King telling me to get on it. I did enjoy them, especially this one. Master Disguise is the better of the two. I may have to sit with a bit more. I just wanted it to be Omen. Yeah. But it's obviously there's a similarity. They sit in the same wheelhouse, but it's just not quite the same. But good band. Definitely check it out. I did notice there was some other that one with the witch thing. I noticed that was out too, with bonus tracks and all sorts of stuff. So I'm sorry, Rick. Yeah, there were boobs on that. I didn't mean to scare you away.
Yeah, they definitely, you see a lot of images from that photo shoot. When they rented that motorcycle for the day, they got their money's worth.
Yeah. Right on. Okay, you're up.
All right, let's see. I'm just going to start working down through the CD stacks. Next up, what's the title of this one? We've got some new wave of traditional heavy metal with Saber. This is a band out of California, and their album Without Warning. This was one that picked up in the infamous, 10 for $50 bin over at Hell's Headbangers. This is a really good example of one of these new wave of traditional heavy metal bands that is good, but there's not a lot to latch onto. This is another one I'm going to be interested to see if I ever circle back around to it. It's a decent album. It's got some cool tracks on it. They do a good job emulating that early mid 80s, heavy traditional metal sound. At the same time, I've heard a lot of that stuff by this point in my life. There's nothing here that really breaks the mold or reinvents the wheel. So it's kind of like, that's a good album, but there's a lot of good albums in this style. I did a video on new wave of traditional heavy metal a couple of weeks ago over on the Let's Talk Metal channel. Folks had a lot of really good comments on that. If folks haven't checked it out, there's some more fun viewing you can do this weekend. And yeah, I'm really two minds about this movement. It's very cool to see younger bands enjoy that style so much that they want to pick up those reins and move forward and do the same thing. But at the same time, for older fans, it's very hard for an album like this to blow me away, because I've been listening to Omen albums and Savage Grace albums for 30 years now. So it's like, cool, I appreciate that they're trying to do the same thing, but it's really hard for an album of this ilk to have anywhere near that same kind of impact on me. And part of that is just, the fact that, I'm a old boomer when it comes to this stuff. For newer, younger fans, getting to check out this style for the first time because they see something like Saber, that's excellent. It's going to introduce them and open a lot of doors to a lot of excellent bands and albums for them. I'm also just interested to see where these kind of bands can go in the future. They're painting themselves into a very tight niche by wanting to copy, they're trying to do the same cover art. They're trying to do the same band photos. They're trying to do the same, musical style. So what did they do on album 2 or album 3? Did they just kind of cut and paste and do the same thing over? That could burn itself out real fast. But if they try to innovate and go in a different direction, they're going to lose that aesthetic very, very quickly and be a completely different beast.
Well, the thing of it is, they're trying to siphon from an era. A lot of those bands that they're influenced by didn't put more than a couple albums out.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So
like Savage Grace that you just showed. They've got 2 albums and 2 EPs, and that was really it.
Right. I mean, Omen, they got back together after tragedy, but but their new stuff isn't as good as their old stuff, and if a band like that, I guess that Haunt band is the undiscovered country because they're turning out a ton of shit.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess it's just a wait and see type of thing, because like the bands that influenced them didn't have the longevity. So
yeah. I mean, the other thing that's happening in this movement at this point, there is a ton of these bands that are coming out. There's a YouTube station that's dedicated to putting a lot of their full lengths out. As far as I can tell, he's doing it with band consent, so it seems to be pretty legit. But and when you look at that channel, I mean, he's uploading an album a day almost, and it's just day after day after day. There's just tons of these bands playing this style of stuff, which again, it's great to see that it's gaining in popularity. But it also means you have to start really sifting through more and more stuff to find those albums that really stand out. Something like the Riot City album or the Fortress EP. The really top-notch stuff. If we're not careful, those things are going to start to get lost in the rush of material that's coming out. So it happens with every genre and every subgenre. They all have the same problems. Those aren't questions that are unique to new wave of traditional heavy metal. Death metal, black metal, they've all gone through the same kind of growing pains of what do you do next? How do you deal with so many bands starting to come out in such a short period of time? But yeah, if you like that style and you don't mind, checking another one out, the Saber album is pretty good. I wouldn't, be showing it if I hated it or anything necessarily, but It's not going to be a top 10 album in that style, but it's worth checking out if you're really into it.
Alex says the problem with that new wave of traditional heavy metal is I don't understand it because that sound never went away. It only got the spotlight again in the last 5 years, but there are a ton of these bands now and they are all just okay.
Again, you really have to start digging through them. There are some that I think are really top notch, but you're already having to sift through them a lot. And he's right. The style has never gone away. Kellen's videos are good representative of that. You had bands like Skullview and October 31st playing it, late 90s and into the early 2000s. But yeah, it really has gotten a boost in popularity over the last 5 years or so. A couple of bands, have started breaking through and getting more attention to it. Bands like, Traveler and Eternal Champion, they're Visigoth, they're drawing more eyeballs to that style, which again is a great thing. I'm glad that's happening. I'm just, a little worried about how those bands are they going to be able to make a sustained, career out of it? Or are you going to see a lot of bands flame out and a lot of good albums get overlooked because you just have too much too fast?
Yeah. Kellen says, I'm still broken inside, Alan, after you dismissed Megaton Sword.
I'll circle back to that one someday, but yeah, that particular one, sorry, Kellen, we hurt the ones we love sometimes. I love you, man, but Megaton Sword for me is not one of the premier bands in that style. I think we've talked about it before. I won't go back down that rabbit hole. For me, Megaton Sword is trying to do a lot of the epic thing and a lot of the traditional thing at the same time, and I almost feel like they'd be a little better off if they picked a lane and went hard after one of the two rather than trying to straddle the fence. That is my take on Megaton Sword.
This is a good point. I mean, there's a couple things I want to highlight here, but CD Cult says, I really dig the ones with women. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. It skipped as I clicked. Ash Bowen says, the problem for me with new age of traditional heavy metal is that it sounds so inauthentic. I will say it's kind of like that style of music of metal has influenced this is going to be mean. I don't mean it to be mean, but it's going to, no matter how I say this, it's going to be mean. But there's like a hipster crowd that gets all their clothes from like Goodwill and stuff like that. This is kind of like, this style of metal kind of seems like the clothes that they're getting out of Goodwill. It's like a younger, hipper crowd that's trying to, emulate the old and, the old photos and the look. And I can see people thinking that it's inauthentic, and that might be a turnoff for me, honestly. And I couldn't put my finger on it until he just said that. And I'm like, you know what? It kind of is inauthentic in a way. It's cool. I mean, I like it and I listen to it, but there's just nothing there that really, I don't know. I guess I just haven't found the right band. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I very much see what you and he are getting at. At the same time, I'll offer one point where I would kind of disagree. One thing I have noticed listening to interviews with some of these bands and such is that I think at least the majority of them really are coming at it from the standpoint of they're doing it because they do genuinely love this style of heavy metal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, none of them come across, at least again in my very limited sampling of interviews and videos and stuff, none of them come across like they're trying to do this to be super cool or become mega rock stars or anything. In the 80s, when a lot of bands were forming, a lot of those bands, they had gone to a concert. They had seen Judas Priest or Iron Maiden playing in front of, thousands and thousands of people with, the big rock star life. And they all went home and thought, I want to do that too. I want to be the next big thing on MTV and radio and play in front of thousands of people and be, the big, coke snorting, beer drinking, womanizing rock star. And of course, most of them never went that way. I don't think many of these new bands are looking at it that way. I think they very much understand that there is a limited appeal here, that they're not going to become an Iron Maiden level phenomenon. They're not going to become a Judas Priest or a Metallica level phenomenon. They're not going to go out and play a 138 date world tour with selling out the Coliseum or the Staples Center, 3 nights in a row or anything. I think they really do come at it from the perspective of, we're going to do this because we really love it, we enjoy it, it's the kind of music we like, but we understand we are not quitting our day jobs to do this. We have no delusions of conquering the world. Hey, maybe we'll get to go to Europe and play a couple of big festivals someday, is maybe like their target goal for it. Maybe we'll get to put out some albums, on a smaller label, but still have folks check out our music. And these aren't bands that are jockeying for the capital EMI Sony record deal or anything. So I think from that perspective, they're actually coming at it in a very authentic standpoint. So I would really hesitate to say inauthentic or anything like that. But I get where you're coming from, because they are sort of copying what's already been done before without bringing too much new stuff to it. There are things, when you start to get into it, there are certain like riffing patterns and things, scaling patterns that older bands didn't use. Obviously, the recording technology is much better these days. These albums are going to sound better than a lot of those early 80 albums did because, well, they just have access to better tools and such. And I think in general, the musicianship sometimes is much more solid for the entire band on these newer acts. We have a lot of nostalgia for some of those older bands, and some of them were excellent. But some, it's like, well, you had a good guitar player, but your vocalist sucked. Or you had a hotshot guitarist, but your rhythm section, they could barely keep time.
Yeah.
These newer bands, for the most part, it seems like, they've got a pretty solid lineup.
They got their shit together.
They've got a solid lineup. They have incorporated a few things, that newer bands added to the traditional and power metal repertoire over the years. So it's not complete copy and paste, but yeah, I can very much see where folks would look at that. And again, I understand that reaction. You look at it, and even myself, sometimes it's like, dude, Saxon did this fucking album 40 years ago. Why are you trying to ape Saxon's, shit? You're not going to be the next Saxon.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're necessarily trying. They understand I get the sense they understand their place in the ecosystem, which is a good thing for them. They'll be able to manage their expectations. And yeah, maybe actually be able to put out a lot of fun albums simply because they're having fun doing it, not worried about, oh, gee, the band's going to fall apart because all of a sudden we didn't get an MTV deal or some shit.
Ash has got a good point here, but here's the thing: the Iron Maiden listened to Thin Lizzy, borrowed the twin guitars, but nobody would ever accuse them of sounding like Lizzy, which is a good point. But that's also, to answer that a little bit, comes from a time where not everything had been done yet. Now, there's not a lot new under the sun these days, which that might be kind of a generalization and a negative outlook, but it's kind of true. I mean, if you look at the lineage and the way things have gone, let's face it, Iron Maiden quits touring tomorrow. There's no one to step in for them. Metallica, not that they're one of the biggest bands on the planet, but what I'm saying is if they quit tomorrow, there's no band really. I mean, you got Testament, the Overkills, those bands, but they're not really big arena type bands. They're just not. Maiden is a powerhouse. There is no band coming up right now that has got, Ghost. I hate to even bring that up. So many people like Ghost, and I get the shtick, but I don't get it, man. I just don't get it. It's tough.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know. I get your point, Ash, and Marty. That's a good response. It gets harder and harder to be original as time goes by. Yes, there's always new things to try, but as you keep adding those new iterations over time, you get further and further from the core sound. Marty and I, we've discussed this some. You listen to like a lot of much younger, newer style bands, something like Spirit Box or Ginger. They're heavy metal. They're called heavy metal. They sound nothing at all like bands from the 80s or most of the 1990s.
They're very modern. Ginger's a good band. It's very modern. It comes on Sirius XM and I can listen to it.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, but
yeah,
I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, it's a far cry. The last thing I'll say with that, with the new wave of traditional metal bands, no, they're not, taking the formula in a new direction. That doesn't mean that some of them are not putting out some really kick-ass songs and albums. there's sort of an old joke in blues music that nobody has done anything original in blues music since probably like 1955.
No.
But once the electric guitar was added, that was probably the last real innovation to blues music. Everybody plays the exact same few chords and few notes. So why do people keep playing blues music? Why has the genre not just completely ground to a halt due to a lack of innovation? It's because everybody thinks they can take those same basic elements, put them back together in a slightly different combination, and come up with a new, really great song.
Yep.
And new wave of traditional heavy metal is kind of doing the same thing. They're going to use those same basic elements, add a couple of newer tricks that have come along, but they still feel like, I may sound a heck of a lot like early 1980s Iron Maiden. Maybe our band really does just sound like, the first Pretty Maids EP. But that doesn't mean when you put it on, you're just like, damn, that song absolutely kills it. Even though it's not an original sound or style, some of these, again, that Riot City Burn the Night album, it has some fantastic fucking headbanging tracks on it. It's not the most original sounding band on the planet, but if you can write the songs that good, I don't care. Good tunes are good tunes, even if the band isn't doing something incredibly original with the tunes.
I think your point of the blues thing, I think people evolve from blues into jazz, don't they? I mean, isn't jazz like the more educated stepchild of blues?
I don't know. That's not.
I don't know either. I'm stretching a bit here, but yeah.
We in that case, we need to stretch and reach out to maybe to Aaron, and metal theologian would be the man to address that kind of stuff. Blues, I know some little bits about. Jazz, I can spell jazz. It's a basketball team in Utah, I think. That's about the extent of my knowledge of jazz. But
Kellen's got another point here. Can I just speak as the representative of the younger hipster Goodwill avocado toast generation? I grew up with extreme metal being the norm. I had to grow into and learn to accept clean sung vocals and prominent melody. Trad was something that I had to grow or mature into. Understandable. And the younger crowd, I mean, the bands, all the heavy stuff is there for them to just pick and choose from. I mean, back in our day, these bands like Iron Maiden and all these, new wave of British heavy metal, they're being influenced by, hard rock radio. I mean, what is there? I mean, what was there heavy back then? Blue Cheer, Sabbath, Zeppelin. I mean, that exactly. What came out of that influence is pretty special, really. I mean, the evolution it jumped quite a bit in the last couple decades, but here we are, here we are now. You've kind of hit the wall. Death and black metal you can't really go much faster. You can't do more extreme. You can just keep trying to reinvent the wheel and try to happen upon the perfect combination that people like, All right. Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with the chat. There's so many people.
Yeah, a lot of folks with a lot of good comments.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, folks mentioning some other bands. Angel Sword, I have not heard. Heavy Sentence is on my to playlist. It just has not come up in the YouTube feed yet, but I have it written down, so it will get spun sooner or later. But yeah, okay. So we had a little sidetrack there through new wave of traditional heavy metal, but let's get ourselves back on course here. So Marty, what's something else that you have been spinning lately?
Jeff set me straight. He says, nah, blues and jazz aren't really that interchangeable. The modes and scales are quite different. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. For sure. Next up for me, I have listened to this a few times. I like Course of Empire much better, but this is
that's my jam.
The hell if not, I don't know what that word even is.
Narcotic demos.
Oh, the narcotic demos. It's that silent P always fucks me up.
Yeah.
If it was a better production, this would be a lot better, but it's great. I mean, the music is really well done. Love the guy's vocals, but Course of Empire is so magical. It's really hard. I don't know where this falls in the. Hold on, let me see here.
That's their first release. That's a good 15 years ago. So
okay,
a lot of time has gone by since that came out. But
yeah, I've only got this one and the new one. So there's several in the middle. Golden Bough and the White Goddess that I'm missing.
There's 2 LPs in between. Yeah. Yeah, it's I started out with that, when it came out. I saw the name a couple of times, like, that's a cool name. I'm not going to buy it just because of the name. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was Dennis from Sentinel Steel had just written a short blurb about it. And I forget how exactly he phrased it, but I was familiar enough with Dennis's taste that as soon as I read his description, I'm just like, okay, let's go to the Sentinel Steel website. And Dennis, you got this? Yep. Okay, please send me a copy right now. You have spoken of this in a way that I understand I need to hear it. And the first time I heard that EP, I remember very distinctly. I was working on actually writing my doctoral dissertation. I had put it on for background music, and it took less than 2 minutes. I just stopped everything I was doing, and I sat and I just listened to that until it finished. Because it's what, 4 tracks, I believe, maybe 5. It's technically an EP, but yeah, it absolutely blew me away. I'm just like, holy shit! It was one of those rare moments where you just feel like this is an album I was meant to hear. This is a band I have been waiting to hear, and they have never let me down. Their whole catalog is just incredible.
I'll get there. And
No
I did
worries.
like this. I wish it was a little bit fuller. And there's a
Work.
couple songs on that Course of Empire that are so amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So amazing. It's like, oh my God, how are they
yeah.
gonna do this better again? I don't know if they can.
Yeah, working backwards is going to be a little weird because you're going to hear that where they were still a little rough
Yep.
around the edges on some of the earlier stuff, but it's just undeniably glorious songwriting. Absolutely.
The Metal Vault says, who today is taking risks in metal and forging something new? We all love bands that we listen to and can then reference influences, similarities to already existing bands. True, but you want a band that's doing something new? It's Voivod. They're staying within their sound, but that new Voivod album is exceptional, and no one sounds like them. They're doing some really awkward, strange, cool stuff, and the problem is this. I mean, as being a reviewer for many, many years, at the height of my doing a ton of reviews a year, when I heard everything, I gravitated towards the unique bands, the bands that were doing something weird, kooky, crazy. Oh my God, glowing review. This is so great, so interesting, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward 10 years later, I don't listen to any of those bands anymore. Really. I will grab HM2 death metal band over something unique, kooky, and crazy every time, or Kiss, or something nostalgic, something simple, something fun to listen to, something I don't have to think about. So, I mean, to do something truly new and innovative and be a trendsetter you're cutting your audience in an already small community in half, if not thirds. It's a tough road to hoe. And if you're going to do something new, you're going to have to realize, I mean, Voivod, I think they're now starting to finally get their due after decades of doing what they do very well. But anyway, I got off on another tangent. Sorry.
That's all good. Again, lots of good questions and comments popping up tonight. So maybe one of those nights where we get off track a little bit, but that's quite okay.
Okay, Alan, you are up, I think. Yes, you are
I
up.
believe so. All right. Let's see. Next on the stack, we've got not a very well-known band, but one I've enjoyed for a number of years now. Altar of Oblivion. I believe they are Danish. So don't hate me if I'm wrong on that. It's late and it's been a long week, but they have kind of a neat sound. It's doomy, but also has kind of a traditional metal structure to it. So it's not like really slow doom like a Reverend Bazaar or a Saint Vitus or anything. The
They
songs feel
are indeed Danish. They are Danish.
okay. Good
Sorry.
deal. Brain is still working. Good to know. But yeah, so they've got they still have a decent gallop when they want it. They still have some punch to the songs when they want it, but it's definitely draped in a lot of doom imagery. This was just an EP that they released a few years ago, 4 tracks. Once again, when you're doing the 10 CDs for $50, those last few that get in sometimes are a little weird. So it's like, for $5, I'll give that for an EP. I wouldn't have paid full price for this, but yeah, to round out the 10, sure. This has some monster fucking doom songs on it. State of Decay, Barren Grounds. Also, some of these songs are crushingly heavy. It's some of the best tracks they've done. So yeah, I was really impressed and pleasantly surprised. EPs, you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes they're really cool. Sometimes it's a handful of sort of throwaway tracks just meant to lead into an album or get rid of the leftovers from a recording session. But yeah, if you are familiar with Ultra of Oblivion, you like their style, this EP, don't overlook the EP here. It has some absolutely crushing traditional doom metal songs on it. If you haven't checked them out, give them a try. The vocals are a little weird. They don't bother me at all. But I can see where some people are going to listen to this vocalist and feel like he's got like a very funny sort of uh, he's singing kind of almost a little gothic sounding and has a little bit of an accent, so it may be a little off-putting to some folks, but uh, it's a good band. I think I've heard all their albums but one, and they're consistently have been really, really solid. I'm a little surprised they haven't gotten more attention by this phase, but they've been on relatively small labels like Shadow Kingdom, so uh, maybe just not quite enough hype out there yet. But yeah, nice little EP with some traditional doom metal on it. Liked it quite a bit.
Cool. Next for me, might as well get into the Stormkeep. Finally picked up Tales of Other Time by Stormkeep. This is their claim to fame. They have got the drummer of Blood Incantation in it. This is straight up black metal from the US. And first off, I got to say that if I was the label guy, I mean, they got this O sleeve with the die cut hole highlighting nothing really in the artwork. I don't understand why this is even here. It's got the foil thing. You pull out the CD. There's the full cover. That little die cut really doesn't highlight much in the artwork. It's kind of a waste of money. And then, obviously it's a big concept album, so you got a map. Again, this is excessive, but anyway.
What's the map of? Is it a map of?
It is a map of Elda, whatever the hell that is.
It rings a bell. I want to say it's a fantasy thing, but I don't know.
Must be. I haven't read the lyrics yet. I've spun this album a good 5 or 6 times though. Yeah, so their first EP was much hyped, and I was talking in the chat today, and I called it a overhyped turd sandwich, which was being overly dramatic because it's not a bad mini CD. It's just Abigor meets Dissection Worship, but Abigor and Dissection did it better. It seemed a little uninspired. They hadn't got where they were going yet, but this album is quite special. It's very well done black metal. Obviously very Scandinavian, European influenced, but it's just got a good, well written. Of course, you got all the super cult photos in here, which are fun. That guy's summoning something. Yeah, there's a really nice synth instrumental called what the fuck's that called? Something Dragons. An Ode to Dragons. Not dungeons. It's kind of, it feels like a dungeon synth song, but it's done with guitars and whatnot. But this album is quite good. This is deserving of. I mean, see, there seems to be a divide here.
Yeah,
Stormkeep is boring. Well, the EP is boring. This is way better. I don't know if you've heard this, but it is overhyped. Very good stuff. Really well done. It's produced really well. The songwriting is really solid. They don't sound like everybody, but they don't really sound original, if that makes any sense. It's just really solid, well done black metal, and I can kind of see the hype was overbearing for the EP. Here is it's a little more. Apparently, people forget that during this global pandemic and all this other supply shortage stuff, producing records this era is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's taken up to 9 months to get stuff done. We put out the Panopticon new album. It sold far brisker than we thought it was going to. And okay, fine, we'll put in a repress. It was 9 months for the repress. Apparently the label that put this out on vinyl were getting death threats because they didn't put out enough, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know, God damn it, people. It's just a fucking record or a CD. You just got to work and you got to be patient. You got to be patient. I mean, is this worth the wait? If you're into black metal and stuff, you're going to like it. It's worth the wait. I don't want to throw more praise on the hype fire, but it's worth it. It's a good record. I mean, is it the best thing you've heard all year? I don't know, but be patient, people. Putting out records this day and age, it's a labor of love. It's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass. The way things are right now, they're raising the prices on production and the turnaround times, even for something they've already done, like a repress. The plates are done. It's a 9-month wait. It's ridiculous. So
yeah,
pull your panties out of your butt and just be patient.
I think some people don't factor into, even without the pandemic effect, vinyl's had a huge rise in popularity, and there are very few places that still press vinyl. It's not something you can just set up a shop overnight and start churning out LPs and singles. Vinyl was so unpopular 15 years ago. It's really hard to explain if you weren't paying attention to music back then. There are extremely few pressing plants anywhere to get this shit done at. One of my wife's friends, was working on trying to get a plant established in the U.S., several years ago, because it was a wide open ecosystem. There just wasn't enough demand for it. Nobody wanted it. And now that everybody wants everything on vinyl again, it puts a lot of strain on the infrastructure. And then, you've got, COVID and, shipping and delays and all that stuff piled on top of it. So it's a really bad combination of, even if you just snap your fingers and make COVID go away, there's only so many places you can go to, and everybody has to go to those same places, that same handful of places, to get the vinyl pressed.
Well, the thing of it is, like Jack White just put out a video. He some years ago he opened up a third man vinyl pressing plant in Detroit here in Michigan. Mm-hmm. He just posted a video last week. It's at his plant. He's like, it was like a call to the 3 big major record companies. He's like, I put up my own money and built this pressing plant here in America, in Michigan. And it is time for the big major labels to once again build their own pressing plants for vinyl. Apparently they used to have them back in the day, and when vinyl took a shit, they sold all of it and got rid of it or junked out their vinyl lines. Well, so now they're flooding the same factories that all of us little labels use with 500,000 Adele or Taylor Swift records, which takes time to press, especially because it's all 2 LP. Artists are still writing albums for CDs these days. I mean, CDs has like a 78-minute playtime. So they're writing long albums and then they want it on vinyl. So they split it up into multiple vinyls. So as a pressing plant, that's taking up all of your lines just to fit that quota. So it is time for the big major labels to build their own record plants again. There are companies building the presses again. It is not you don't have to find record pressing machines in a dustbin or in a junkyard anymore and refurbish them. Metallica owns their own pressing plant in Europe. They have their own label. They press all their own stuff, all their CDs, all their vinyl. They press themselves. They own their masters. They're in charge of their own destiny. The big labels need to do it again while this is hot and make it so little punk bands and labels and underground boutique labels such as Bindrune and everybody else that's doing this stuff has a quicker turnaround time and meet our small but growing demand. So another rant. Sorry. Ranty tonight.
Quite all right.
It all boils down to people just need to be fucking patient. It's out of our hands. You can only make shit happen so fast.
Yep.
Anyway, whose turn is it?
Where's my burrito? Where's my burrito? Where's my burrito? I think it's back to me after.
It's back to you. Yeah.
Let's see. Picked this one up a while back. I had all the band stuff on digital, but I found it on a physical copy cheap, so it was a chance to revisit Saber. This is their second one, Aura. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing it, but pretty known quantity here. Kind of cool atmospheric music. They work in, like a lot of the tin whistles. They're going for that sort of Highland. It adds like a nice Highlands epic kind of flair to the music. This one is the album that Austin from Panopticon plays drums on, and it definitely shows. The first album by Sayer was okay, but it was a little dull at times. With Austin doing the drumming on this one, it definitely adds some punch and some propulsion to the songs. It livens them up a bit. And the main guy whose name escapes me, you can tell he was moving forward in terms of songwriting quality. They're cool albums if you just want something with that kind of vibe on in the background. It's every album is about 5 songs. Most of the songs are in that 9-minute range. It's not something where you're going to sit down and really focus on it note for note and bang your head or anything too. But I do like their music. It is fun stuff to listen to. This, I think, is one of the better ones they've done, and part of that is the drum performance adds noticeably to the sound on this album. So yeah, if anybody hasn't checked this out, cool band. Definitely like it. And some places, if you poke around on Discogs, you can find some of the CD pressings pretty cheap, which is always cool too.
Sweet. Next up, I have to inadvertently blame Jurgen for rekindling my appreciation for Rage. And over the last year or so, I've acquired a bunch of Rage albums. And I don't know, I don't have them all yet, but I'm getting there. I'm picking away at it. But I had I went to listen to Secrets in the Weird World the other day on my tape, my old original tape, and it's not working really good. So I ended up buying the CD. I found a noise version of it online for $15. Pretty fair, I guess. Is this my favorite Rage album? No, I know Metal Mike seems to like this a lot. He says it's his favorite. I think the best song on here is Invisible Horizons. Probably the best song on here. It's solid. And then later down the road, PV reunited with the original members from this lineup, and they started, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jurgen, but they renamed the band Refuge, which I don't quite get. So they put out this and another thing, I believe, as Refuge. This is pretty good too. PV is a very interesting songwriter. He's really good at it. He's just got a really good formula. He's got a really interesting voice. And when it clicked with me, I mean, I've got the early stuff, but it was Jurgen's video where he talked about the album Trapped. I went and bought that on his recommendation and was blown away how good that record is. So well written. So it sent me on a down the hole to buy everything I could find by Rage and stuff. Mike just talked about this the other day, and I picked it up just on a blind buy, and it's quite good. I mean, is it mind-blowing? It's really not. But if you're into Rage, you like the way PV writes songs, you're going to like it. This is their 89. Yep. This is 1989. This came out. There was supposed to be a different cover, but the record label didn't want to pay the artist or something, so they put a stock photo on, which completely pissed the band off, which, welcome to Karl Volterbach, I guess, but...
Welcome to Noise Records. Here's your contract. Don't read it.
Yeah, don't read it. Just sign it. Your first 3 children are mine. Yes, but yeah, Rage. What do you think about Rage?
I like some of their stuff. I've not dived into their catalog real deep. They're one of the German bands that I don't know all that well. I got the first 2 albums way back in the day, Reign of Fear and Execution
Guaranteed. Yep.
They were okay. Reign of Fear was good. It's a very speedy album.
Yep.
And kind of a thin production. And then Execution Guaranteed just did not sit right with me for some reason. So it was a long time before I circled back to the band. I think the only other one I've got on CD right now is Trapped, which has a lot of cool songs on it. They're a band I will dig through at some point. I know there are some eras in the Rage discography you have to watch out for. They went through kind of a weird symphonic phase
Yeah.
for a few albums in the early mid 2000s.
Yep.
I haven't heard any of that material, but anytime you like are looking at reviews of the Rage discography, people will be like, "This is one of those albums." They don't necessarily say it's horrible. They're just like, "Be aware, this is not your older brother's Rage from 1986 or anything." So yeah, it's a discography I've got to dig through some more. But yeah, they've hung around and become another one of those kind of little bands with a very long legacy. So good for the Rage.
Yeah, Tim says Storm Warrior is a better listen than Rage. I need to check out Storm Warrior.
Mm.
Jurgen says too much mid-tempo on the Refuge album for me. You know what? I've only listened to it once, but I didn't hate it. It was produced well. I'll come back to it. Like I said, I've got about 6 other Rage CDs I haven't spun yet, sitting in a stack up in my shop, but I'll get there. Okay, you're up, Alan.
All right, this will be pretty straightforward, I believe. Little vintage thrash.
Oh,
Up,
nice find.
again, showed up in the used bin for $6. I've owned the album before. I've traded it off. I've owned it again. I've traded it off.
It's not their best.
$6 down again. No, it is not their best album. I have some sentimental attachment to this one because it was the first one I heard from Testament. So I always liked it. It's a very solid album. I mean, I get that folks like some of the earlier ones a little better, but there's really nothing wrong with this album either, in my opinion. A lot of good tracks on it. It's vintage Testament. They hadn't gone off the rails yet. They had, kind of after this, you get to like the Ritual, the one after this. That is kind of a boring album. It's got a great lead track with Electric Crown, and after that, it's a kind of a slog to listen to the Ritual. And of course, after that, you had Low, which it's not as bad as some people make it out to be, but the band was definitely going through that mid 90s weird transition phase of doing other stuff, and it took them a few albums to get all the parts lined back up perfectly. So yeah, this was kind of the other reason, like it's kind of the last of their classic early albums. But yeah, so it's not Practice What You Preach. It's not the legacy, but I will still gladly listen to the album and keep it on the shelf until I trade it away again.
Yeah. Why do I have this? I thought I got rid of this. Yeah.
It's usually just more of a thing of like, okay, somebody else is interested in it, or I'm thinning out the thrash shelf. It's like, I know this album real good. I hardly ever play it. I can take it and trade it in. Yeah. And then I'll buy it again 5 years later.
Right.
I'm pretty good not to do that most of the time. That is one of the few albums that I have owned. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I have bought and sold Souls of Black at least 3 times, maybe 4 times. And that's one of the very few albums I could say that about. So it must be good if I keep coming back to it, right?
Well, you hope anyway.
On
paper, it looks good.
And I think it works out in the long run.
All yes, right, Marty. You did. This is the dad metal channel for sure.
Oh yeah.
Next up for me, I've been trying to get caught up on the last couple of years metal releases. This is a band that really needs no introduction, and it is seen. This album in particular was shown a lot on YouTube. This is the new Heathen album, Empire of the Blind.
Oh, okay.
This band shares a guitarist, Lee Altus, I believe is his last name, with Exodus, and putting this on, the production and a lot of the riffs, this sounds a lot like Exodus to me, to be honest.
Huh.
With a different singer. It's the same singer they've always had. I've listened to it twice. I like it. It's solid, but it didn't really blow me away, to be honest. Again, very similar to, and there's a million songs on here. It's a long listen, but it's okay. It's good. And yeah, Simon says I just found an OG LP of the Heathen's first album, which is my favorite of theirs. That's a great record.
Simon's neighborhood, where all 80s vintage metal goes to live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then into his garage. What is this here? Aaron says what Alan just was just saying is one of the best things you can say about a record. Like, it must really get under your skin if you keep coming back to it. Yeah. I mean, that's the hope for sure.
Yep. A lot of folks are mentioning they really like the Ritual album too, and that's cool. If folks are into that one, that's awesome. It just, yeah, it never quite clicked with me. But Electric Crown, now that is an awesome track. I love that one. That was they played that to death on Headbangers Ball, and I always loved seeing that video.
But yeah, this Heathen, it's got a couple good songs on it, but there's a lot of draggers on here. It isn't really consistent. It sounds like Exodus with a different singer. Not necessarily good, fiery Exodus. It's just okay. I'm kind of surprised it got so much love. I don't know. Their first album, what's their second album, Victims of Deception, are much better. And their last album was actually had some good moments on it too. But this one was just kind of okay. It's solid. I haven't really listened to it enough to give it a super fair assessment, but I perked up a couple times. That's a decent song, but most of it's just kind of on in the background, wallpaper type stuff.
Yeah, I have not heard the newer Heathen. I like their 2 vintage albums. Victims of Deception, I think, is a real overlooked classic, the second one. But I'm notoriously bad not to check out these bands when they come back after a long hiatus, and I should work on that sometime because I probably miss a lot of good albums that way.
Alan or Eric, Ulysses Siren is better than most thrash bands. That EP they first put out is amazing, and good luck finding it. Other than he found it, Eric found it for a reasonable price, I think. But man, that thing is not cheap, and it is so good, so good.
And speaking of finding it at a reasonable price, congratulations and screw you to the person that bought the Weakling CD for $20 on eBay this morning before I could get logged on and buy it.
Justin from Vested Bonds Blood Box bought it at Goodwill for like $1.
Yeah. Just if you're in it long enough, you're going to make some fantastic finds like that. And Justin definitely landed a great one. But yeah, a copy showed up on. I have it as one of my saved searches on eBay, and it was a buy it now $20 for a copy of the Weaklings. It's like, please. Fuck, of course it's already gone. I'm checking it like 7:30 in the morning, and I never had a chance.
Brian, I agree. The Heathen's comeback album, Evolution of Chaos, was a really good album. It's solid, good songs. There's a good dynamic on it. There's good mix of fast and slow songs. This one here, it's a lot of mid pace. Just kind of can't really get out of its own way, I think. I always just say Blinded Inside. I think we are all a little too easy on the senior thrash bands. We should just be able to tell them that they should stop making new records. I'm sorry, folks. I'm just trying to keep up with all you here.
There's a lot of good comments tonight.
A lot of good comments.
Hanging out and having fun, which is awesome to see. That's what we're here to do too.
Violence.
Right. Hey, Violence has a new song out. I've heard it a few times on my commute. So they're back working on stuff too.
They got a new EP out. It just dropped a week or so ago.
Okay. I bet that's where the track's from. I hadn't had a chance to follow up and figure it out.
Haven't picked it up yet.
Yep. Creator. They've been playing a Creator song. I guess it's a new Creator track the past few mornings driving into work too. Hate Over Alice, I think is the title of it.
Oh yeah. Hate Over Alice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Not bad.
Yep. Very, very fast. Very punchy.
Okay. You're up next.
Okay. Let's see. Well, my co-host sent me a big box of random cool stuff a while back to check out. It's been it was a very eclectic box of CD stuff to check out. There were only a few of them I recognized by name, so been finding some that are pretty neat. Yeah, some don't really float my boat, but that's okay. One random one that was in the box that was fun, and this is another one that I've owned and gotten rid of before, but was happy to add it back to the shelf. Skid Row, Slave to the Grind. Getting back into some more glammy popular stuff here. Skid Row seems to be one of those bands that was in the better end of the spectrum for this stuff. And this was their second album. It was kind of a rare case, at least in my experience, with one of these bands that had a lot of MTV and FM radio success with their first album. And when they came out with the second album, they actually got noticeably heavier rather than watering it down and getting more commercial. This album has some really good, heavy tracks for this style of music. No, it's not going to challenge, brutal truth or extreme noise terror or napalm death or anything. It's not supposed to. But for a band that this album went like straight to #1 the week it came out, if I remember right. For a band with that kind of exposure and airplay, to be doing some of these heavier songs like Monkey Business and Slave to the Grind, it was kind of impressive that they could very much have watered it down and just redid the kind of style they did on the first album. They actually cranked it up a notch, and as such, it's a pretty good album from this style. So, not going to win me any true middle street cred points tonight, I'm sure, but it's a cool album. I do like that one by Skid Row. So cool to have that one on the shelf. This one is the edited version. There is a non-edited version that has an extra track. I think it's called something like "Get the Fuck Out." Which obviously couldn't be on the version that got sold at Walmarts across the land. But when that album came out, I had ended up at a mall over in the Virginia Tech area, like a month or so after it had come out, and they had a bunch of copies in the cassette bin for sale because the initial hype had already worn off, and all the copies they had actually were the quote unquote the dirty version, and I bought every single copy they had. They were only like $3 a piece, and took them back to my high school and was selling them to all the other kids for like $8 a piece, making a big $5 flipping Skid Row dirty version cassette tapes because nobody else had been able to get the dirty version. We all knew it was out there, but there was no way to get it in our little town. So there's like I remember kids be like, "Hey, dude, I heard you've got like the dirty Skid Row album. Do you still have a copy of it, man?" They're like, "Yeah." It's like, "Cool. How much? $8?" Like, "I'll see you on Friday," because Friday was if you saved $1.25 or $1.50 each day, on your lunch money, you'd have the $8 by Friday, so that you could buy a tape from another kid.
Meet you behind the library by the garbage can. Okay, man.
As seniors, we got to like go have lunch like out in front of the school building, so that was just always where all the dealing went down. Just sitting out, in the bus rider area. But so yeah, thanks for the box, Marty. And there's some cool stuff. There's a couple more I'll show here later if we hang in that long. But yeah, there's some cool stuff in there. That was a fun one to find.
Okay. Next up for me, I got the new Ken Nardi CD. Ken Nardi, for those of you who don't know, is the main guy from Anacrusis back in the day. They're kind of a weird, proggy, strange, technical, not technical thrash band from St. Louis, Missouri. Is that right?
Missouri, yeah. I think St. Louis, but definitely Missouri.
They're another one of those bands that were different from everybody else, and if you like them, you really like them. Most people kind of heard them and glazed over, I think. But after the demise of Anacrusis, there was a long period of inactivity, and Ken finally started putting out his own music. His first solo album was called Thinking of the Past, I want to say. And
sounds right.
It was a 2 CD set, kind of long, drum machine on it. The drum programming was a bit to get around, but this guy's voice is so perfectly preserved. He's got this awesome scream that's just blood curdling. And the songs on it are great. It all sounds like Anacrusis songs, with a drum machine. This album, I haven't read the insert yet. If it's a drum programming, it's way better. This is a 2 CD set. The first CD is the new album. The second CD has got a couple new songs and some reworkings of a handful of Anacrusis songs. Very kind of cool. There's Ken himself. Good production. The album towards the end, it starts to get a little samey, but I've only listened to it like twice. The song, his vocals are the big sell on this stuff. His scream is so good, and his pitch vocals are really strong, emotive. He's a great songwriter. He's obviously very in tune with his composition and stuff, and he's decided to do all this stuff himself, recording. And Anacrusis reformed for like a humongous live show a while ago that was put out on a very limited DVD that I did not get hear about until after the fact, and it's long gone. But Dive Bomb put this out. Definitely check it out. I would like to get him on the channel at some point. I have not yet reached out to him, but
that would be really cool.
it'd be good to talk about the old Anacrusis stuff and how he
and
did
the
some
new
of the
stuff.
stuff. And the new stuff.
The next time I order from Dive Bomb, I'll be picking that up. I haven't ordered anything because I've been so far behind on the stuff I've already got. Got to catch up some first.
The first few orders got the his autograph. So for those of you that are into, I could care less about autographs, but some people are into that stuff. This is really good. If you're into Anacrusis, I would recommend it. You're not going to be disappointed. It's solid, super solid. Proggy thrash with some emotive turns here and there. Some slower songs, ballad-esque type stuff that rips into some thrashier overtones. It's good. It's good. Solid stuff. Metal Mayhem is asking if you've heard any word on the new King Diamond album coming out.
Yeah, I just sent him typed a reply in the chat. I have not heard anything about that. So maybe somebody else in the chat has, but I have not.
Joshua Chapman is saying Screams and Whispers is a masterpiece. You know what?
And all Joshua of those, is correct.
He is correct. And all those early, they didn't put out a bad album. They're all, no. I think maybe my favorite is Reason.
Screams would definitely be my favorite. They did not do a bad album.
Yeah, Screams and Whispers got The Sound of the Alarm on it, which is one of those all-time classic, amazing songs. So good. His vocals are just absolutely crushing on that song, and it's such a well-written, modern-sounding song. It's just, they're a great band. If you have not heard Anacrusis, check them out.
Yep, good stuff. Yeah, that would be awesome to bring Kevin on sometime if he's into it.
That would be good. I just haven't. I need to sit down and take notes. I forget. Just go start reaching out to people. Anyway, you're up.
All right. Well, let's see. If folks haven't checked out Marty's Wednesday night Borknagar stream yet, spoiler alert, their album of choice for the next installment is going to be from Wasp. It's Unholy Terror. Is that the one y'all agreed on, Marty?
Yeah, Unholy something.
Unholy something, yes. It's the
Unholy Terror. You're right. Unholy Terror. Yep.
There we go. Brain is still working. And which is very cool. One of the things I picked up several weeks ago, I just never bought it, was the Double Assassins live album. Live albums can be, of course, a real mixed bag. There are some incredibly good ones, and there are also a lot of pretty average ones. Sometimes live albums, I play them once or twice, and I set them aside, and I just never touch them again. Had never picked this one up, just didn't, but found it at one of the local stores. And again, it's kind of the case, like, I like to buy something when I'm there, even if it's just, a couple of UCDs or something to help them out. And it's like, not much else I'm seeing today, but I never did listen to that one. And picked up, looked at the track list. This has a great track list for this era of Wasp. This came out while they were on the Kill Fuck Die tour, so in between KFD and Hell Dorado. And this just has like everything I want to hear on a live Wasp album. The only problem is, some of the songs are spliced together in like, medleys, so that, you don't get the full version of some of the songs, which is a little annoying. But it's got I Want to Be Somebody, The Real Me, Kill Your Pretty Face, Blind in Texas, Headless Children, The Idol, Crimson Idol, Little Death, Mean Man, on and on Your Knees, Chainsaw Charlie, Murders in the Rue Morgue, Wild Child, Animal, of course, Love Machine. Just like, I looked at the track list and just like, well, shit, I'm going to buy that. And it's a fun listen. In terms of overall sound and stuff, it's not one. This is no Live After Death. This is no Strangers in the Night. It's a good live album. Glad I picked it up. It's got a great track list to it. But it may not be something that gets played a ton. I may just reach for the studio albums instead. But if anybody missed it, it is worth checking out just because the track list is really stacked. At least it's got the kind of material I really like by Wasp on it.
Wade asks, I'm very close to getting my first Wasp album thanks to the show. Torn between the
Well,
debut, Headless, or Crimson. Really, all three of those are great.
yeah, they're all different.
They're all very different, but they're all really solid.
Yeah, the debut is a good reference point for starting for sure. Crimson Idol, it is a story album. It's a concept
Yep.
album.
So is
So
Headless Children, I believe, isn't it?
not really. It
I
has
haven't
kind
read
of
the
a
lyrics.
theme to it, but Crimson Idol is very autobiographical for Blackie. It's very well done. It's pretty dark. It has some pretty tracks on it too. Um, if some people like those kind of albums and some people feel they're a bit much, so that may help you decide if you want to start with Crimson or not. I personally would start with Headless Children. That is my favorite out of the Wasp catalog. On that album, I just feel like they got a little darker, a little tighter. In a way, they kind of got rid of a little bit of the extravagance that had taken over by the time the last command had come out. Headless Children to me just felt like okay, let's cut the bullshit a little bit and just do a really raw, nasty fucking album. And it's always been my favorite out of their whole catalog. But you've got it narrowed down to some good albums there. So and any of those are going to be a pretty good entry point.
I've listened to this Unholy Terror album once in prep for the show we're going to do, and it's really good. There was not a song on it that I disliked.
Yeah, that's one I have not heard. When you get into that era after Hell Dorado, I kind of lost track of the band for a good while. So there's some in there I have not heard. And yeah, and there are some Wasp albums that aren't as solid. There's the whole, what is it, the Idol Part 1 and Part 2 or something? No, Neon God Part 1 and Part 2, which in a lot of ways it's just a remake of the Crimson Idol, but it's like the director's cut of Crimson Idol. Now it's stretched over two very long albums instead of being one really good short album. You can probably do without those unless you just really, really want to hear them rehash the same thing all over again. Hell Dorado, we were talking about Marty. That one's got some good tracks, but it's got some real goofy.
It's got some turds on it
too.
But the good songs are good. It's got Chris Holmes in the band at that point. He came back. Yeah. He came back for a couple albums, and then claims that Blackie fucked him over, and off he went into alcoholism.
People have different opinions on KFD. Some people feel like it was a little bit too much in the whole Marilyn Manson wannabe late 90s kind of trend. I think it's an excellent fucking album. I really like KFD. You can tell Blackie wrote it from a very pissed off point of view because it's another one that was written in the wake of divorce and those kind of personal issues going on. And yes, it does have some of those 90s isms going on in it, but they do them extremely well. I've never been into Marilyn Manson. But yeah, KFD it's just a dark, cool fucking album.
Yeah, I love his vocals. I'm going to track down more as it comes available. I keep thinking if I stumble into a record store, there's going to be a bunch in this used bin. I mean, it just.
I'm kind of the same way. I'm not going to go out of my way to pick them up, but like that one, hey, I'm in the record store. There's nothing else I'm really looking to spend on today. I'll give you a few bucks for that. Absolutely.
Talk about a unique singer, though. He's got a voice like no one else. No one sounds like Blackie Lawless. He's Indeed. Instantly recognizable, identifiable.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right, Marty, back over to you, sir.
More hype train stuff. People were ranting and raving about this one, so I had to check it out. This is Spectral Wound with a Diabolic Thirst. This is okay. It's okay. It's on Profound Lore. It's I don't know where these guys are from. They might be from Canada. I don't know. I'm talking up my ass. I have no idea, but it's pretty much just fast black metal with a full band. It's not cultish, but it's well composed. It's pretty solid, but it's not breaking any new territory. It's okay. I've listened to it about 4 times thinking, what is it that people are so excited about on this? It's okay. That's all I can say. Yeah. I've heard it all before. Done. I mean, that Stormkeep album is definitely better than this. But this is it's just okay black metal, modern black metal, trying to sound 90s, you know.
I checked. Yes, they are
Canada,
from
yes.
Quebec. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I have not heard that one, but yes, a lot of people seem to talk about it.
And people say I get it. It's good. It's just, it's not. See, there's a funny thing with me. If everybody's ranting and raving, shitting their pants about it, I'm very standoffish on it. I don't know why. I've always been that way, which is dumb, but it's just a thing. Then I come around on these things like, oh yeah, this is killer, but it's good. I just don't know how much I'm going to return to it. It's just okay.
Gotcha.
Next up. I haven't even got to the vinyl yet. Shit. I can probably skip these two. Yeah, we can go with. How you doing? You still have a bunch?
I still got a fair number of things to go through.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. We're not gonna sweat it then.
Yeah, there are some I can kind of group together if I need to, and there are some I can skip. That's no problem. But yeah, no, we're good. We're good. But yeah, next one I wanted to touch base on was the Deceased covers album, Thrash Times at Ridgemont High.
That's a good. They did a good job on that.
King and Company put this out. You know, he had done one similar with October 31st a couple of years ago that I've still not tracked down just yet. But yeah, you know, this one it's King and the guys doing, you know, some of their favorite classic thrash tunes, and you know, the track selection is really good, and they really nail some of these quite well. I won't go through the whole track list, but it starts off with Whiplash, Spit on Your Grave, and they fucking crush that song. I know it's one of King's personal favorites. It's got Sacrifice by Sacrifice. They do a great job on that. Their take on Razors, Take This Torch. That's cool. Probably my favorite on here. It's a great song, of course, and they just decimate it. It sounds really good.
Pray for Death by Blessed Death cover. That I'm shocked. That is like the most insane. Most insane thrash vocalist ever, and King did a really good job on that.
Yeah, he really did those vocals justice, indeed. Yeah, you know, it's, again, I don't want to go through the whole track list, but you know, they've got, you know, Voivod, Darkness, Cyclone, Rigor Mortis, Death Wish, and Bulldozer covered going down the stretch. So it's a very fun outing. Lots of great tunes. They're done very well. So if you haven't checked it out and that sounds appealing, what are you waiting for? It's definitely worth picking up. Very fun, cool collection of songs. Again, cover albums sometimes, you know, they can be kind of hit or miss, but Deceased is working with material that they know very well and they love, and it really shows here. So this one works really, really nicely.
Sweet.
All right, Marty, back to you, sir.
I had a guy from Germany send me the first Troll mini CD, which I really enjoyed. Mid-90s black metal with one of the guys from Dimmu Borgir. I can't remember who it is. I believe it's Nagash. Yes. So I picked up the second one, which is called Prep Day Krishna. This is a lot more frilly as far as keyboard infusion. It's funny because the keyboard, there'll be like a keyboard intro. It sounds really produced, really big and full. And then the black metal comes in. It sounds very small and compressed and tiny. You could tell they probably just lined out the computer and made it sound big and floofy. But when it comes to the black metal, it's very, very small. This is good. It's not as good as their mini CD. It's basically one guy, that Nagash guy, Nagash Blackheart. I am both the performer and the performed. Oh, so dramatic.
Alrighty then.
Very nice. He's wearing his Han Solo garb, as you can see.
But did he shoot first?
I don't know. This is not the guy with the top hat, is it? I don't believe so. That guy is a legend for sure, but this is okay. I'm glad I got it. I got it for a pretty good price from the Devil's Elixir is the label. Very nice digibook style, heavy. The booklet is glued to the inside of the pretty solid. If you're into Dimmu Borgir, this is very much in that ilk. Dimmu is way more produced and popular, obviously. this was shooting for something a little bit more than it. I just like the songwriting and the feel. The mini CD just has the Norwegian atmosphere of that time. This is just a little more. He needs more Top Hat.
Needs more Top Hat.
Yes.
I got a hankering for some more Top Hat.
Okay, you're up.
You get a Top Hat. You get a Top Hat. You get a top. Everybody gets a Top Hat. Going to make it work. I'm getting there. All right. Some folks have mentioned this one in the chat, and yeah, it's high time that we had a discussion about Acts of God.
I bought it. It's upstairs. I've listened to it with a friend once. It's amazing, but I have not spun it again, so I didn't want to include it today.
That's fair. I haven't spun it enough to offer a lot of thoughts about it. It sounds very good after the first few spins. It's what you'd expect from an Immolation album. Very dark, very solid performances. Immolation, of course, at this point, they've become one of those legacy bands out of the second wave of death metal. But the one thing I've noticed with their last couple of albums, and you pointed this out very astutely, Immolation sets themselves apart from a lot of other bands in this field because they just write very good songs.
Yes.
It's not just about creating the atmosphere, and it's not just about blasting as hard as they can or anything. Immolation, Vigna knows how to write songs and put them together so that they will stick with you and stand out. And this is a genre and a style that isn't always focused on the songwriting. That sometimes it gets a little bit too lost in either the blasphemy or the technicality or the atmosphere of the cavernous knuckle dragging and all that. Immolation can do those things, but they also can write real honest to God songs, which is always kind of impressive. The only detraction I would say is, we get it. You don't like religion. You don't like established orders of people telling you what to do. Lyrically, it gets very redundant. Typically, I know a lot of folks don't listen to this stuff. They're not paying a shitload of attention to the lyrics. I do like to try to sit down at least the first time or two I listen to it and pay attention to what they're saying. Yeah, and Immolation lyrics can get very, very repetitive. Every song is just like, your establishments have decayed and will crumble. The next song, your crumbling establishments have decayed. The next one is, all the establishments that have decayed will crumble. It's like, we've got it. You have nailed the concept. We know where you stand on these issues. So, but other than that, Immolation does a very good job. What else can you say? It's shaping up to be another very strong Immolation album. And kudos to them for bringing back the old logo. I don't know why it took so long to do that, but they've had it on the last couple of albums, and good for them.
It's cool they did, but it's never been a good logo. Let's be honest with each other.
It's really not a good logo. It's better than just having the word Immolation written out in Arial black on the top of so many albums, though.
Yeah. Let's see. Eric chimes in. I used to dig Immolation up through like the first 4 records, but I revisited. Now I'm pretty sure Immolation has always been boring. Oh, I don't agree with that. I get it though. I mean, there's some sameness, but yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know all of Immolation's catalog front to back. It's very spotty. I know a couple here, a couple there. So yeah, over the course of, they've got to have 10, 12 albums at least, I would guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe over the course of the whole catalog, it would start to wear on me a bit. I don't know.
Bob Vigna is on Piggy's level as far as guitar playing, writing, and arranging. Very unique player and writer. I agree. He's very good. You know what, Ben? I will say it's a very long album. And it kind of seems like they return to their core formula, where Atonement, they're trying some different stuff on that album, and I really appreciated that. I love their last album, Atonement, is exceptional death metal. It is. They really busted into a little bit of a different feel for writing. It was a very good album. I was curious how they would follow it up, but they just kind of went back to what they know. But
yeah, I think this is going to be a good album. I don't think it's at least on first impression. It's not going to be as good as Atonement, but that was a very strong album.
okay, next up, I have not spun this album enough, but I have liked it. I got this off of their Bandcamp page. It is Morgul Blade.
Oh yeah, yep.
With Fell Sorcery Abounds. Very cool cover. There's the band with their big swords out. And
careful, this is a family-friendly podcast now.
I hope not. You should be in bed. It's 11 o'clock. 9 songs, traditional metal, some heavier moments. It's about all I can say about it. A lot of people have been talking about this online too, so I had to check it out. And they actually had a few copies left on CD, so I just snagged it. I'm still a big proponent of blind buying. I know that's kind of probably dumb in this day and age, but it's how I like to do it. I want to, if people are recommending it, I'm going to trust them and I'm going to buy it eventually. Good stuff. Again, nothing exceptional. It's in that, genre that we're discussing. I think they're a little heavier than that. They're a little less trad metal. They're mixing things up a little bit more, but it still could be, they could be lumped into that,
Yes.
They're leaning into that genre for sure, but it's good. I need to sit with it a little bit more. I might grow on me a bit more than this, but good stuff.
Yep. Yeah, they're at the heavier end of that spectrum. You're right. I've heard that one a few times. I haven't bought it, but yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Let's see. All right, so talked about immolation. So now it's time for me to throw away every bit of coolness that I generated from that and talk about Girl.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yep. This was in the Marty box. It was an interesting one to check out because this is one of those albums that I have known about and avoided for 25 years or more at this point. But yeah, when it's delivered free to your doorstep, okay, well, the time has come. Let's check out Girl. If folks aren't familiar with this one, this was a British band. It turned up in 1979, 1980. And as such, they get lumped in with new wave of British heavy metal. And that's a mistake. Not everything recorded in the United Kingdom between 1979 and 1982 is new wave of British heavy metal. It's just not. And this is a good example of that. This band, you're stretching it to call them any type of heavy metal at all. This is sort of, it's meant to be sort of glam rock. It's weird though, because 1980, that's 79, 80, you're too late to be part of the Alice Cooper and New York Dolls glam movement. And you're a little bit early for the Twisted Sister, Poison, everything that becomes a big deal a few years later. So it sits in a really weird time slot. The other thing about this album is that it was a huge sort of commercial hit success at the time. The band got signed almost immediately to a big label. I forget which one. They got a huge PR push thrown behind them. And yeah, the album was, a huge sellout kind of thing. They had a big tour. It was just a really weird case of a band even, reading the, interviews with band members in here, even they were kind of like, not really sure why we got plucked from obscurity and all, literally, within a matter of months, we're have a top charting album and thousands of screaming fans. It's like, how'd this happen? It confused them as much as it confused other people. The band pretty quickly fell apart as well. They very much were like, there is no way we could possibly have followed up and lived up to all this hype, and pressure just and squashed them. And I think they technically did a second album, if I'm remembering the story right, but everyone pretty quickly realized, this was, we liked this because we were told to like this by commercials and advertising, and fool us once, shame on you. We're not buying it on the second Girl album. So they came and went pretty quick. So it was interesting to at least finally hear this album. It's very lightweight stuff. It is not metal at all. The other sort of legacy they did have, the lineup does feature a young Phil Lewis who would end up taking the reins of LA Guns years later after what's his name, Paul Black was dismissed, and they had to get a new vocalist sort of very late in the game before they were recording. So, yep, Phil Lewis is on here. If you're a hardcore LA Guns fan, you're probably not watching this stream, but if you are, here is one of his early recordings. One track did get carried over into the first LA Guns album. This does have Girl doing Hollywood Tease, and so I guess Phil did take that one track with him, and it does show up in obviously years later on that self-titled LA Guns album. So yeah, probably not something I'm going to play again, but it was cool to finally sit down and be like, okay, let's see what the fuck this album sounds like, because I have seen it and I've known it by reputation for decades, but the time finally came to check it out, which was cool to do. Thank you, Marty.
You're welcome. I felt bad, some of that stuff I'm putting in there. I'm like, I want to listen to some of this stuff, but I'm never going to get around. I got so much other stuff. I'm never going to get around to it, but all right.
I'm working. I haven't got them all, but I'm working my way through.
Next up, I finally picked this up. Hypocrisy, Worship.
Oh.
Some friends in a chat are saying how they think this sucks. I mean, I don't know if you're into Hypocrisy at all, and you like some modern Hypocrisy. I don't see how you think this sucks, because it sounds like Hypocrisy. There's a couple songs that are a little more chunky, maybe, but Peter's vocals are still great, super scathing. The music is modern. It's modern melodic death with a modern edge. It's a solid album. I like the last one, Virus, a bit more, I think. Or no, The End of Disclosure. I don't remember. The End of Disclosure was the last one. It was a pretty good album. And this isn't, mind blowing or anything. It's pretty much what he's been doing the last 20 years. But yeah, I need to spend a little more time with it, but it's been good in the vehicle, driving around town, cranking it. It sounds really good. It's crisp. It's got a full sound to it. It's good in the car. Makes the air move in the speakers. And I like Hypocrisy. I just do. They put out some albums that are better than others. That Catch-22 album is garbage. He kind of leaned into the new metal thing a little bit. Yeah, you're right, Eric. The album cover is pretty cheesy, but I don't know. I like it. If you're into Hypocrisy, I really can't. I can't discredit it. It's solid. He's sticking to his guns. He's putting out solid material, and if you're into it, cool.
I've liked a lot of Hypocrisy stuff. It's a band I have not revisited in a very long time, so they're another one that it's about time for the wheel to come back around and revisit their catalog. Okay, so after that whole girl thing, let me see if I can get myself back on track here. Let's do some South American doom metal with Condenados and their second album, The Tree of Death. So when this band came out, their first album, it sounded very interesting. It was on Shadow Kingdom. It's like, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. Picked it up, and it never really fully resonated with me. I felt like the production was kind of off what they were doing. The songs just weren't quite, for lack of a better description, it didn't sound like they were quite finished. It was like, they've got some good ideas, but the songs aren't quite gelling or something. So it was another one that had it for a while, eventually traded it to somebody for something else. And really hadn't thought of the band, ever since then. That's probably 5-6 years ago easily. And once again, when you're trying to round out the 10 CD for $50 sale bin purchase, you start taking a second look at some things. Like, I wonder if that second album, maybe they found their feet. Maybe. Hell, for $5, let's find out. And damn if they didn't really find their footing on this album. This is really, really good. This was one of the really nice surprises out of that batch of 10 CDs. They've got good, clean vocals. They sing in English if it matters to anybody. Clean vocal style, very heavy. Some of these tracks nod heavy towards classic Candlemass and Construction. Others not as much, but crushingly heavy tracks on here. Really, really good riffs. Excellent doom metal, and again, the first album did not impress, but this one, I feel like they got a much better sound quality on this. The songs are much tighter, more focused sounding. So, yeah, if anybody's not familiar with the band, there's a couple of pretty cool doom metal bands out of South America. I want to say these guys are from Chile. Sorry if my South American geography is all wrong there, but yeah, this is prime doom metal. Really, really good stuff. I was really, really pleasantly surprised. Good,
cool album
good
cover too.
Good kind of blind buy, and yeah, kind of a neat cover art to it. Don't know who the artist is. The first album had really cool cover art. I really liked it. It was more like this kind of dark cathedral looking painting with like a very reddish, purplish sky behind it. But yeah, this one now maybe maybe I need to go back and check the first album again, and maybe this time it'll click. I don't know. But right now, I'd say this one is, heads and shoulders a big leap forward. So hopefully there will be more that comes out eventually. I think they've done a few recordings, but I don't think there's a third album yet. Maybe there will be someday.
Sweet.
All right, Marty, let's keep working through your stack. What you got now?
Okay, last of the CDs for me.
Okay.
I got these all in a sale. They're all like $2 or $3 a piece, and they're all by the band L4. Not entirely sure where this guy's from. Basically, there's one of these albums that has black metal on it. The other two are pretty much straight up dungeon synth. Pretty solid, well composed. It doesn't get overly boring. If I'm in the mood for synth stuff, I can't remember which one. I think the From the Throne of Hate is the one that had the black metal on it. I'm not entirely sure. And of course, the guy's got a drawing of himself in different poses on every album. And this one doesn't. This is actually like a picture of him. But Into the Dark Forest, From the Throne of Hate, and Son of the Shades. Again, if you're into dungeon synth, yeah, how grim is that guy? Totally. If you're into dungeon synth, this really won't steer you wrong. And the inclusion of black metal themes, and he comes in and screams over it. You know, the crying orc style of singing. It's pretty solid. I got these for a couple bucks a piece. I'm not out anything. I printed shirts for out of season for this band a long time ago. Always wanted to check them out, and finally did. It was worth it. It was worth a couple bucks, because that dungeon synth stuff, it does itch. It does itch the scratch the itch is what I'm trying to say for me once in a while when I'm in that mood, for sure.
Good deal. Yeah, I don't mind the dungeon synth things. I just don't know the genre, so I can just put on the random compilation on YouTube and it's like, yep, that'll work as background music when you got 330 papers to grade by the end.
You guys should, when you're doing a campaign with your buds, you should put up some dungeon synth in the background. Really get into the character.
Yeah. We haven't really done any theatrics like that. I know one of the guys used to do some more of that kind of stuff, but I think these days we're all pretty happy just to have a beer and a deck of magic cards and beat the hell out of one another with a horde of goblins for a while. But
that's right, you do magic. I thought you guys did D&D.
I did this. We're not necessarily above doing D&D sometime, but it would work for playing cards too. Maybe next time I have the guys over, we'll throw that Diplodocus album on in the background and set the mood.
Listen to dinosaurs going roar.
Slow and heavy, much like my commander deck.
Right on.
All right. Next. Yeah, let's see. Which next? Yeah, let's do this one next. This was another total blind buy out of the sale bin. Band called Alms out of the Baltimore area. This is their first release, called appropriately Act 1. The cover gives you some idea what's going on here. It's got that throwback, retro 70s wannabe looking art to it. And this is doomy stuff. It's heavy on sort of the organ effects. So it's got some psychedelic lines worked into it, and it all fits together fairly well. They have two vocalists, one male, one female, so they kind of trade off a little bit. The female vocals, unsurprisingly, they're very much in the Grace Slick tradition. A lot of bands that play this style definitely use Jefferson Airplane as a jumping off point when developing vocals. If you're familiar with bands like The Devil's Blood or Jack's Thoth, this is in the same zip code. This one is a little more like doomy metal feeling than those bands. Those bands maybe lean a little bit more towards the psychedelic hard rock side of things. Alms feels like there's a little bit more metal content there. It's pretty short. It's only 6 songs. I forget the running time, but I want to say it was 35 minutes or so. But I was impressed. This actually stayed in the CD player quite a while. At one point in the past month, I was something like 40 albums behind and just trying to get things into the CD player. So if something's not impressing me, it's not getting more than a couple of spins. But this one stayed around for a week. The lead track, Dead Water, stood out as a really good one. I like the way they're using the organ to good effect. It's not overbearing, but it has a presence. The vocal trade-offs are working pretty well. So I think they've got a thing. I will keep an eye out, and if they release something else, I will be on that pretty quick. So yeah, Alms, pretty cool throwback doomy style. Has that 70s retro vibe, but they're getting their own sound worked out. I think they've got potential for sure.
Sweet. I've got one tape in this thing, and I was talking in the chat the other day. If this thing was never put out, I don't think the world would have missed it. But when I said that, there was a wave of opposition to my comment. But Nuclear War Now put out a Perverted Ceremony Sabbat of Behazael. This is like Beharit's forgotten exiled brother. I don't know. It's just kind of mid-paced. It sounded like drums and bass with blasphemous grunting over the top. Pro tape on purple, I should say. This is just super average stuff, man. It sounds like it was recorded under a garage. You got these dudes chilling. I don't know. One thing is for sure, I was not in the mood for this when I put it on. So that is a factor. If I was in the mood for something this simplistic and barren and kind of uninteresting, it's just it may would have hit the spot, but as of the other day, it wasn't. It seemed like a waste of time. So yeah, people are into Perverted Ceremony. Cool. I know Simon and those guys were saying how this was killer, but I don't hear killer on this. But anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes if you're not in the mood for a certain style, yeah, it can be very good, but it will not make an impact at all. So yeah.
Nick, I'm glad to see I'm not alone on this, by the way. Recommendation.
Yeah, we've all done that where we've listened to something and we're not in the mood, and then later, if you are in the mood, you'll say, "Oh wait, okay, now I get it." So maybe that'll be one to give another try sometime when you're in the mood for the style.
Yeah, Eric says it's he doesn't hate it, but it's super derivative, and that's the point. I'm sure it's the point, but yeah, the songs weren't there. Too stripped down. It was too barren. Simon, here he is. I love it. Right on. Cool. You're up.
All right. Let's see. If folks can't tell, I've been spending a good amount of Doom stuff lately. Finally picked up a Pale Divine album on CD. This band's been around for a while. They're out of somewhere in New England. I associate them with the Maryland Doom scene, but they're not from Maryland. They're further north than that. This is one of those bands that for me has always been sort of a digital purchase band. I've always liked them enough that, yeah, I want to hear the next album, but I've never gone out and tracked down hard copies. This is like, like when I subscribed to e-music for several years, and this was very much an e-music kind of band for me. I will give you $4.99 to download your new album. I will not go out and pay $12 or $15 to order your new CD. They're good in that Maryland doom style. They're being very influenced by the Obsessed is always kind of the reference point for that whole scene of doom. It's got some of the traditional doom elements, but they're always using very straightforward sort of real rock metal 4/4 time signature type song structures. The songs are always relatively short, relatively compact, often go at the same kind of not plodding pace. It's kind of a slower mid-tempo pace. And it's a style of doom that I don't mind. I just feel like a lot of bands end up doing the exact same pattern. So again, it can be hard to differentiate yourself. Pale Divine, always fairly decent at it. But this one, even though it's self-titled, this is much later in their discography. It's their fifth album, their sixth album. I don't know, somewhere in there. It's not an old one. It came out in the past 5 or 6 years. But this one is the best in their catalog of the ones that I've heard. For whatever reason, this one just sounds like they've put a little more energy into the songs. There's a little more oomph to them. It still falls into that Maryland doom subgenre, but it's not dragging its feet as bad as some of those bands are often tend to do. So I was expecting to be like, okay, sure, just another Pale Divine album, but for $5, shut up and take my money. But again, this one got several spins. It's like, damn, they've actually really hit the nail on the head with that one, and it's a really good example of how to do that style of doom metal very, very well, so that the songs are interesting and they don't start feeling very interchangeable, by the time you get towards the end of the album. So yeah, if you dig the Obsessed, you like other bands in that style, this self-titled Pale Divine album is one that you should check out. I would recommend it.
Esther Awful said he got Nightfall and Middle Earth for 25 cents at his used store. That's a good deal.
That yes, I own at least 2 copies of that, and I will pay 25 cents for a third copy right now. No questions asked.
Right. I'm into the vinyl here. This is a reissue of the Leonoka, Tides of Triumph. This is harsh black metal, Native American based. So there's a lot of flutes on this thing, mixed in with the harsh screaming, lo-fi, but not unlistenable. The production is pretty good on this. The songwriting is pretty good on this, and the flute gives it a unique vibe for sure, because he uses it quite extensively. He uses it like a keyboard would, he would use a keyboard harmony. He's using the flute instead. There's times where things sound like they're a little out of tune with each other, but it's ambitious, it's unique, it's very well done. It's on Old Mill Records. Leonoka, Tides of Triumph.
Don't know that one.
Yep, they had a few pop up on their Bandcamp page. It was reissued, so very cool. Solid North American black metal. Very cool stuff.
Good deal.
I need to spin it a few more times to get a little more colorful in my description, but that's that.
That's all right. Let's see. Okay. This one I don't think I've talked about. It came in right after the last time we did What's Spinning, I think. And Kellen and I have talked about this band a bit, so I'm hoping Kellen is still out there in the chat. It's the Fortress full-length album. So back to some new wave of traditional heavy metal. This is Don't Spare the Wicked. It's a California band. They did an EP several years ago, which is this one. And this really blew me away the first time I heard it. I
I
heard it
need
on
to.
the
You've recommended this numerous times. I need to check it out eventually.
Yeah, this is a very now for looking for a standout release in new wave of traditional heavy metal. This for me really is head and shoulders above a lot of the other bands. I first heard this on the Gimme Metal Radio station. I was randomly listening to it. It's not something I check out very often, but I was, and I forget her name. It's the DJ who like sort of works out of her van. She's got kind of a Mark Shelton vibe going on with her outfit, in her avatar picture. But she always has really good playlists, and she had this as part of the playlist. It's like, damn, what the hell is that? And looking at it, and so the first time I was hearing it, I looking at the cover, like that really does look like something that would have come out like on Mausoleum back in 1984. Is that an older thing or is that a newer thing? I had to look into it. It's like, okay, it is a newer thing, but it's a really, really good newer thing. So
I love that cover. The hand is either too big or the skull is too small. I can't quite decide which way it should go.
Hey man, it's all relative. Like,
Is that the same hand that's on Power and Pain that's smashing that whole head with its fist?
I think that is left-handed. This one looks like it's no. Let's see. This one's left-handed. I think that one was right-handed. So maybe, but it would have to at least be the other hand for the same person. But anyway, they got it. They did get full length put out right around the end of last year. I think it came out right before Christmas. So I went ahead and ordered a CD from Bandcamp, which I don't do a lot of times, but did for this one. It's pretty good. I now want to say right away, it's not as good as the EP. The production here feels a little bit lightweight for what they're doing. It kind of robs them of a little bit of energy. They've also added, not to every track, but there's some tracks that have some keyboards that are a little more prominent, and that kind of makes the songs feel like they're pulling in a little bit of a lighter direction, which, compared to what they had done here, is just like, I could do without that. It's not a bad now that it's not a bad album. It is not a stinker or anything like that. Still a good purchase. I'm still glad I picked it up, but I feel like they sounded better when they were a little heavier sounding. So with a little different production and maybe trim back on the keyboards there a little bit, and I think that would have tightened the album up a bit. It's not a long album. Again, it's 8 tracks, runtime's under 40 minutes. Um, Nice slipcase thing that it goes into. So it looks cool. It sounds pretty cool. I think the band can do better than this. Just want to say that I'm still going to check out whatever they comes next. It's a nice album, but I think they've got a better album in their capabilities. They've got the talent to do something a little stronger next time around. So that's my take on the New Fortress. I know it's one Kellen's been listening to, and he likes that band quite a bit too.
All right. Well, I've been trying to poke my nose around this whole new wave of old school death metal stuff, and there's some really great bands out there, and there's a lot of bands that sound the same. I've talked about this before. I like the sound, but you're tuned that low, they're going for sound more so than riffs. And this band is an exception, and this band kind of blew me away. Actually, this is Frozen Soul with Crypt of Ice. This is the spiritual successor to Bolt Thrower in a lot of ways. I think very heavy death metal, but it's got that they really kind of fixate on that mid pace double bass, brutal, but not. I mean, the riffs are still distinguishable, and the songs are really well done. Solid singer, solid band, and of course, I was late to this, so getting it on vinyl cost me way more than I really wanted to spend. But if I was going to get it, it had to be that way. And then recently, I picked up this EP has been reissued. This is Encased in Ice. It's got Frozen Soul deluxe vinyl reissue of Texas' most infamous death metal crew. It's their first demo EP, and it includes 4 bonus tracks on 180 gram vinyl and a poster. So there's Encased in Ice. It came with a fancy record if I remember right. Could be wrong. Oh, it's just black. But the bonus tracks are Mandatory Suicide cover, Entomb's Morbid Devourment, and a demo version of Crypt Device, and another newer song called Tormented by Time. So this is a full-length album. It's got their demo and some bonus tracks. Very cool. These guys are good. They're from Texas. They're an excellent modern death metal band worth checking out for sure. I was quite smitten by both of these records.
Yeah, I think I bought the demo on Bandcamp. I have not got the album at this point. But yeah, that one's getting positive praise from quite a few folks.
Solid bolt thrower worship in a lot of ways. All right, you're up.
All right, let's see. I've got two I'm gonna have to cheat and group some things together here. Let's see. Aaron is still on. I know he's probably going to do Grown Man Record Night in a little while, perhaps. So let's do this one in case he has to jump. Aaron, over on the Metal Theologian channel, recently did a really nice dive through the first classic era of the Blue Oyster Cult discography. So definitely recommend checking that out. She's been doing a lot of good videos lately. Lots of cool, old, obscure stuff, but also, Deep Purple, Blue Oyster Cult perspectives. Always fun stuff to watch. And the Blue Oyster Cult one was interesting to me because over the past 6 months or so, I've been starting to work my way through their discography finally as well. They've always been one of those bands. I knew the hits, but I'd never really sat down and listened to the full-length albums. You can't listen to everything. It takes a while for some things to come around. But I'd finally, some folks like Zoller had, repeatedly mentioned I should check them out. So
every time he's here, he buys me a book. We go to the local shop. He's like, "Do you have this one?" I'm like, "Nope." He's like, "You're buying this. I'm buying this for you." I'm like, "Okay." So my BOC collection is actually getting pretty cool.
Yeah, mine's getting there slowly, and it just happened that a bunch of them had started turning up in some of the local shops for that $5-6. That's kind of the magic price point for me. If you want $8 or $9 for it, give me a reason. If you want $5 or $6 for it, sure, fine. Here, I'll take it. If I'm the least bit curious, I'm going to pay that for it. So I've been working my way through. Don't have everything, of course, but there's self-titled, Tyranny and Mutation. Been working on Agents of Fortune. Yes, I'm missing Secret Treaties in between those two.
That's one of my favorites, actually, Secret Treaties.
That one seems to rate highly with a lot of folks. Spectres. A couple of the ones after Spectres. Now, I have not picked up Mirrors, but I have Cultosaurus and also the one at Fire of Unknown Origin after that. Obviously, this is not the time to deep dive through Blue Oyster Cult. And Aaron, I can't do it the same kind of justice that Aaron can. He's paid a lot more attention to these over a much longer time frame than I have. In general, thoughts on the band, just some things I've noticed going through them. One, I was kind of surprised how quickly the band started drifting out of hard rock territory and becoming a lot more sort of just rock or ARR, more commercial leaning. For whatever reason, I didn't expect that to happen so early in their catalog. But it seems that definitely by the time you're getting around to Spectres, I like this album. I actually think this one's pretty cool. But even at this point, they're already getting to the point where it's like, there's a lot of tracks on here that don't really feel like 70s hard rock anymore. You're getting into that. I want to say that one came out in 77, maybe. I might be off by a year or two. But even by then, it's just like, there's other than you've got Godzilla, which of course has a pretty heavy riff to it. But after you get past a couple of songs, a lot of them have a much more laid back vibe, a little more of a lightweight vibe. It's not a bad thing. It just is. It's kind of surprised me. And even after that, you get to Cultosaurus and Fire of Unknown Origin. Those albums feel, they have such an early 80s AOR rock sound to them. So it's like, this is this is not the it's not as much of a hard rock lineage as I thought. They seem to move away from that by the time they're getting out of the black and white album phase, even that you start transitioning away from that earlier than I expected. So that was one thing. The other just general note. Um, this band historically, I've always heard them, of course, referenced related to Black Sabbath. That Sandy Pearlman wanted them to be the American Black Sabbath, and they of course toured with Black Sabbath on the Black and Blue tour, and this and that and the other. And I don't hear much of a Black Sabbath connection, even on those first couple of albums. I'm not sure where that comes from necessarily. Maybe that was something Perlman wanted for the band, or he wanted to be part of that scene. But the the British band I actually associate them with more is Budgie. And maybe I'm completely insane, but I see a lot more connections with the Budgie catalog, uh, whereas I just don't see any real strong ties to the Black Sabbath catalog. Budgie is another band that they could have some very quirky lyrics, and they would do they had the inside jokes and stuff with song titles, and the songs could be very eclectic on their albums. And you hear those kind of things on some of these Blue Oyster Cult albums, especially early on. They'll have Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll on the same album with She's as Beautiful as a Foot. And that's very much the kind of thing you would hear Budgie do on one of their early 70s albums too. So I had a little bit of a loss as to why this band has always been put in the same paragraph with Black Sabbath and never comes up in the conversation with Budgie. Maybe I'm overstating it. Maybe I haven't spent enough time with the whole catalog to sort it all out and see that I'm just horribly, horribly wrong. But it's just one of my sort of initial impressions going through the catalog that they drifted out of hard rock territory faster than expected. And to me, they feel like the American Budgie. They do not feel like an American Black Sabbath at all.
It's weird. Their early stuff, people call them proto metal, but there's no distortion in the guitars. It's bizarre. They're coming upon this weird style without distortion. It's very weird to my brain.
Yeah, I mean they definitely have some heavier, faster songs, but you're right. The guitar tone really isn't the same. Yeah, and even the band is a lot of the band members have said in later interviews that the whole heavy metal tag was very much Pearlman's thing. That a lot of them felt like it wasn't a good description of their sound or what they were trying to do, but they kind of just went along with it because he was making it part of their hype and PR, which was obviously doing good things for the band and established them as a huge act for decades. But yeah, even they, I don't think were ever really sold on the idea of being a heavy metal band, but that stigma has hung around with them. They got that label attached, and sometimes it's hard to shake those things off, even when they're not deserved.
Eric says, where the hell is it? Alan, people also call Buffalo the Australian black metal, and they Black Sabbath. I'm sorry, let me start that again. Alan, people also called Buffalo the Australian Black Sabbath, and they also sounded nothing like Sabbath. So I mean, it's all people's perception of it,
Yeah, I mean, again, Black Sabbath was a successful band at that point, and you're trying to get your band noticed. You say all kinds of crazy shit. If something sticks, you take it and you run with it. So could be. Yeah, I think I've heard that Buffalo. I've heard a '70s Buffalo album by a band called Buffalo. I don't know if it's that Australian one or not, Eric. It might have. It's a generic enough name that maybe it was a different band. I know there's also a new wave of British heavy metal band called Buffalo, but that's a different thing altogether. I think Aaron, Metal Theologian, actually showed off or mentioned the Buffalo single at some point in a recent video. Anyway, I've been spending a decent amount of Blue Oyster Cult, some of it I'm liking more than others, but yeah, it's at least interesting. Given time, I do work my way through these bands. It just takes time.
I need to sit down and spin them all one after the other too and really pay attention to them. I've always put them on half-assed, like I'm doing the other stuff. and I have them on record, so I can't totally forget about it. I have to flip a record over, but they're a good band. They're really bizarre, and that's what makes them so cool. And they write good songs too. And like Buck Dharma, what an incredible guitar player. Holy shit. Some of his solos are amazing, especially if you see him do it live. I've seen some live stuff where he's just absolutely crushing it.
He's a good singer too, you know, and a very good songwriter. I mean, he wrote some of their biggest hits. Of course, he wrote Reaper practically by himself, and
that song is like from another planet or another dimension. It's so atmospheric and strange and very cool.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of the ones he sings on are very good. And yeah, I think there's one I really like on the first album that doesn't get referenced all that much. What is it called? It has a funny. Then Come the Last Days of May. I think he sings on that one. That's another one that's just very atmospheric, very dark song, very sad song, but another great performance. Not one that you hear shouted out a lot. So yeah, there's a lot of fun little nuggets on that. People make a big deal out of digging through the Blue Oyster Cult lyrics. Now that's something I kind of see where there's fun to be had there, trying to suss out what they mean or what they're referencing at times. There's also a lot of the lyrics that just seem like they're kind of just silly, dumb, and fun just for the sake of being silly, dumb, and fun. It's I'm a little skeptical of trying to read too much into some of their stuff. I'm sure there are parts that have a great, deep, profound meaning, and other parts that are just like, "Ooh, baby, yeah, baby, slip it in, baby, yeah, ooh," and you don't need to sit there and try to dissect that into some kind of weird Japanese haiku pattern to find a secret hidden message from Perlman and his songwriting cohort. So some of their songs are pretty just straightforward knucklehead stuff.
Yep.
All right, Marty.
Thrasher B Thrash says, not convinced BOC are a good band. Well, it's one of those things where you have to decide if it's something you can process, because they are different. They're very different, which sets them apart in a lot of ways. And it's very good. You just have to, and it's very, they do have songs that fit a structure that are very radio friendly. I mean, they got I'm Burning for You. They got Don't Fear the Reaper. There's other songs.
Yeah. Godzilla's
but there's also
the mega hit.
Yeah. There's other songs though that lyrically may not make a lot of sense, or they're very bizarre. And that's what makes them cool. That makes them very cool.
One thing you have to be careful, just, if thrash is still kind of making up his mind, something to be mindful of, especially as you get more into some of the early 80s albums. I'm finding lyrically they're still trying to do some interesting stuff. There's still darker tones. They have songs written by Michael Moorcock, with Elric, themes to them. But the music that they're doing on some of those early 80s albums really is getting just more into like AOR type territory. It's not hard rock in my definition. They do what a lot of 70s hard rock bands did in the 80s. They soften up. Instead of, they don't become full-fledged 80s heavy metal bands. They get more and more synth heavy. They get more and more lighter in the guitar department. And so some of those albums I'm not connecting with as much, because you read through the lyrics like, this seems like it's interesting, but then you listen to the song, it's just like, this is pretty lightweight stuff. If you weren't paying attention to the lyrics, this would sound like just real bubblegum fluff kind of things. So there's a weird dichotomy when you get into some of the stuff like on Cultosaurus, where it's like, this is cool if this is a cool book to read, but I'm not sure I like this album very much in terms of its musical content. But again, that's just me, and I'm still working on them.
Right on. Okay.
All right, Marty.
I got 3 more turns here. How are you looking?
I have 1 more turn. I'll see if I've got 2 more I can dig up real quick while you do your next one.
Okay, here we go. Again, another band I'm very late to, and the hype, I just couldn't believe it was real. And it is. I like this band. Eternal Champion. I got the Armor of Ire and Ravening Iron. This is Eternal Champion, and it is There's some Manila Road in this for sure. Their influence is definitely there, but they're kind of their own thing too. And I can't remember which album it is. I want to say it's the first album. There's some great fucking songwriting on this first album. And the second one is just as good. I mean, both of these are really solid records. I haven't spun them. I've spun each about twice. Very impressed. I've just been overwhelmed with so much new shit in the last. I'm trying to stop buying stuff. It's a sickness, man. It's rough. But believe the hype. This shit is really solid. And I think it was Alex that said earlier that he puts on one of these records, gets halfway through and wants to listen to Manila Road, which I get it, but there's Manila Road influence, but it's not so obvious that it's the distraction. I wanted to listen to these records. I didn't want to move away to Manila Road. There's always time for that, but solid. Yeah, Eric says my problem with that Eternal Champion is totally front loaded. Track 1 trumps all of the following cuts. Yeah, you got to start off with your banger. Most albums, but yeah. I mean, these are solid records. What have you? I'm sure you're familiar with these, Alan.
Yeah, they have some good tracks on them. I suspect I'm being a bit contrarian, but I'm not as hyped on that band as I am some of these other new wave of traditional metal bands. Eternal Champion's got a good amount of press for a band in this style over the past few years. That first album made a relatively big impact on folks, and the second one has done well also. And they're certainly not bad, but it's not a bad album. I think they're a bit overhyped for what I'm hearing.
They're certainly overhyped.
Yeah, for me, I would take the Riot City album over either of them in a heartbeat, just as an example. But again, that doesn't mean they're bad. Some people, are really gushing about them as like, this is, like you said, this is the next Manila Road. This is Manila Road to the next level. The fuck it is. I'm sorry, but no.
I wouldn't say that. I can hear it in there, but I don't think it's the next Manila Road.
Yeah, if you love the albums, that's cool. I'm glad you dig them. But if somebody is going to claim that they are the next step forward in true heavy metal steel, so like they're good at it. I don't think there's something that you write home about and buy 3 versions of and put up on your wall. But it may just be me. Again, I recognize that I may be just a tad contrarian on that band. That everyone's, like you said, sometimes people start talking things up so much and you kind of start pulling back from it a little bit.
Yeah.
I might
can't
be doing
that
that.
Good.
Yeah. I might be doing that with Eternal Champion a little bit. I'll be right up front and admit it.
All right, I'm going to go use a little boys' room and grab one more thing while you're chatting. I'll be right back.
Okay. In that case, while you're gone, I'll talk about something that is embarrassing and you probably wouldn't want to hear me talk about anyway.
Oh, come on.
We're going to talk about retro Swedish glam metal movement.
All right, I'll go have a tea. I'll be right back.
As I said, now Marty sent these to me, so really this is his fault, not mine.
Sorry.
For those who don't know, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, there has been, just like there's a new wave of traditional heavy metal, there have been younger bands, particularly in Sweden for some reason, that seem to want to reignite the spirit of 80s glam metal stuff. I've known this was going on. I did not have any real interest in checking it out. I don't mind some of the older 80s glam stuff. I grew up on that. It was, the soundtrack to intermediate school. Some of that stuff, too. It was a gateway into checking out some heavier stuff eventually. But I really was not going to go out and start finding, hey, what are, millennial age bands doing with the style. But it turns out some of the stuff that was in the box Marty sent me fell into this category. I didn't know. I had to look them up. For example, we've got one here by a band called Crazy Licks. So you know right away this is not going to be particularly heavy. But yeah, again, they're coming up with the goofy names, spelling them wrong, going for the sort of, the band pictures do sometimes try to look a little heavier, maybe, than the mid 80s bands, but in other cases, not so much. This is a band called Crash Diet, which is a horrible fucking name for a band. I don't care what genre you're in. You could have come up with better than Crash Diet. Rest in Sleaze. A lot of these bands are wanting to play up that sleaze angle a little bit. There was a third one by a band called Santa Cruz. Again, maybe something's getting lost in translation, although Swedes tend to be very, very articulate in English, so not sure about that. These guys are going for something in between in terms of band photo. Anyway, again, they showed up. They're free. I'm going to at least give it a chance. They're kind of a mixed bag. It's hit or miss. The Crazy Licks one is actually not bad. These guys are decent at putting together, the kind of melodies that make music in this hair metal style work okay. So that one's gotten a few spins. Santa Cruz is trying to, at times, they really want to be Guns N' Roses. Some of their faster, more up-tempo songs, they're very much trying to, feed their inner appetite, so to speak. It works to an extent. It's not amazing, but it's not hideous. Crash Diet, again, they're wanting to go into a little bit more of the sleazy angle with things. They do it okay. It's not the greatest thing ever recorded, but I didn't immediately pull it out of the CD player to throw it away. Anyway, it was an interesting chance to at least take a look through that particular window and see what younger bands are trying to do as they very much attempt to emulate the style of a lot of hair metal from the mid 1980s. It's a funny genre to me to want to go back and reinvent. I mean, those bands were very much about commercial success and image and trying to get a lot of exposure. And you're not going to get that doing that style of music today. I mean, that's a very dated style. It's not, there's a certain retro popularity to it, but it's popular with soccer moms who are now going to, see Joe Elliott back on tour playing all the hits from when they were, a 16-year-old girl in 1986. They're not interested in checking out new bands. They have no interest in finding out about anyone who's just come onto the scene. And I don't know why there's a fascination with it, it seems, in Sweden in particular, but there you go. So yeah, it's kind of a strange little sub genre that's been going on in the background. Now you know about it a little bit. Is it something I want to dive into? Am I going to follow up on any of these bands and comb through their discography? No, I'm not. Am I going to keep that Crazy Licks album? Yeah, that one was good enough. I'll put it on the shelf next to the Vixen and Cinderella CDs, and it'll get a spin from time to time. So it's interesting. I'm glad I at least finally got a chance to pay some attention to that scene, just so that I know exactly what a few of the bands sound like. So that was cool to check out. And I've talked long enough that Marty has gotten back from going pee-pee.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you got some use out of some of that stuff I sent you. I didn't know. I just threw a bunch in a box. I said, well, here you go. Enjoy.
Yeah, no, again, it's been kind of interesting. Some cool things to track down and kind of fill some gaps in my knowledge with, for sure.
Okay, a couple
Wade
weeks.
says, yeah, Joe Elliott at the county fair.
Yeah.
Exactly. Def Leppard was like 10 years ago, maybe. Def Leppard was playing in the parking lot at the local Walmart. I shit you not. That is not hyperbole.
Eric says the best band ever to walk that line was Hanoi Rocks. No debate.
Hanoi Rocks is one that gets overlooked a lot. Yep. Again, they had a member. Yeah, they literally had a member die right when they were on the upswing. It was an accident or something, and
Vince
yeah,
Neil killed him. Razzle.
yeah, it just totally killed their momentum. Was it Michael
Literally.
Monroe went on and did like a solo album and stuff later on, but they never really recaptured what they were. They were on a real upward trajectory, and yeah, very unfortunate.
Well, a couple weeks ago, we had Jurgen on, and we went through the entire Candlemass discography. And one of my favorite albums by them is the often overlooked From the 13th Sun. I only had the promo CD that came from the label back in the day, and thankfully I tracked down a copy on vinyl.
Nice.
Peaceville Pressing, the original cover, which is cool. And I haven't spun it yet, but I've heard this album a million times. I'm glad to have an actual full copy of it. I believe it's colored vinyl. What do you want to say? Nope, just black. This is, I can't remember the vocalist. It is, I mean, we talked about this at length the other day. Bjorn Flogvist. Great. I mean, he was on this and the album that came before it. What, chapter 13? Was that the album, Alan? Chapter 13?
Chapter 6 or Dactylus Glomerata. The one before it is Dactylus.
Okay, yeah, he was on both of these, but this is the superior of the two with him singing. Leif sounds like he's inspired again. This album is a little more down tuned. It's heavy as hell. It's really well written. The songs are all very well constructed. It's a great album. No one really talks about it. If you're a Candlemass fan, you have not heard From the 13th Sun, definitely check this one out. It is worth it. It is. I'm not going to go on and not, like I said, we've talked about it at length, but I just wanted to show Alan that I picked up a copy online that I got it for like around $20 too. So it was totally worth it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Mine's an older pressing, but it has a different cover than that.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, you and Jurgen both had the same one with the goofy cover. I'm like, but I'm happy to get the original cover on it, even though the cover sucks. I mean, what the hell is that?
Some kind of messed up Rorschach chest, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Baby's
first fucking Photoshop.
I look at it and I see my sister spanking her dog dressed as a Barbie doll. What does that say? I ain't touching that shit.
Right. Okay. You're up.
All right. So getting down to the last couple here. One last Doom entry for the night. Cardinals Folly. I believe this is their second album, Our Cult Will Live On. This is another Finnish band. So, guess who they sound like? Not hard to piece together. They follow that. There's a bunch of these bands that follow the same naming convention, which is always amused me that you had Saint Vitus, and then you had Reverend Bazaar, and you've got Cardinals Folly, and there's Lord Vicar, and there's at least one or two more that do the same damn name convention. And I'm always amused to see just how long Doom bands can keep coming up with weird, religious figures and or religious titles and add an adjective to it and come up with something that sounds remotely doomy. Anyway, Cardinals Folly, their catalog's been a little hit or miss for me. They're doing the Reverend Bazaar thing. They tend to keep the songs a little shorter and more compact, which I like.
I like Reverend Bazaar. They're a bizarre band. They're goofy. I like them. I don't know.
I like the second album. Crush the Insects is the one Reverend Bazaar album I like, and in particular side A. And it's because they keep the damn songs out of the 9, 12, 15, 28-minute range. So much of the Reverend Bazaar songs, they go on too fucking long. It's just long for the sake of being long.
It is kind of.
And I don't appreciate that. The other problem I've always had with Reverend Bazaar, I've said it before, but why not repeat it here? there's a little bit too much goofiness about it. And for me, I don't mind when a band does some cheesy stuff. You've seen that with some of the things I've shown tonight. I can handle that. I don't like it in doom metal, though. Doom is the one genre more than any other where the cheesiness starts to bother me very quickly because doom, it is supposed to convey a specific emotion, a certain aura. Um, and when you start making it silly, it completely negates the effect that it's supposed to have, for me at least. So when you're trying to be doomy, but then it's like, "Nyah, nyah, nyah, ha, ha, we're just kidding, it's all good fun." It's like, well, what the fuck are you doing then? Why did you even try to pretend to make it doomy if you're just going to turn it into a fucking Popeye cartoon? Don't need that. It doesn't work for me. It does for a ton of people. Reverend Bazaar is obviously very popular. I'm in the minority on this, and I'm okay being there. Cardinal's Folly does what I wish Reverend had done more of, though, keeping the songs, shorter, more to the point. They're not above making it a little cheesy seeming at times, but they don't go overboard on it. They keep it reined in just enough that it doesn't bother me. Now, all that said, this particular album I wasn't too keen on. I liked their first EP slash demo quite a bit. It had some really good tracks on it. The first album, what is it? Something is dangerous. Such power is dangerous. Not every song is great, but it was a decent album overall. This one just doesn't quite feel right for some reason. And part of it is the production seems awfully weird at times. It's not helping their case any. So yeah, I don't know. This one feels like a bit of a miss from a band that they're never going to be my favorite band, but I don't mind checking their stuff out when they release it. But I feel like this one, for maybe it's just the production, maybe they just didn't have a strong enough set of songs put together. It feels like they missed the mark a bit on that one. So Cardinals Folly is worth checking out, but I would check out their earlier stuff if you're curious about them. And yeah, The Cult can live on another day, but that's not the album I would recommend starting with. So yeah, swing and a miss. It's going to happen sometimes.
Right on. All right. My last record. If teenage Marty could peer into the future and see old, fat, and bald Marty sitting in his basement listening to this album as much as I have listened to it since I've acquired it, I would pull a Marty McFly to kick my own ass. Come into the future just to beat my own self in the ass. When I've told this story before, I used to work at Kmart, and a new Kmart came to town here, and I had to help. I got hired, had to help set up the store, so we we're setting up shelves and all this stuff. The manager played this album over and over and over and over again to the point where I just wanted to claw my fucking eyes out. I hated it so much. It was everything I hated about music at that time in my cult development. But nowadays, oh boy, I love it. Steely Dan's Asia. Here you go, Alan.
There, I cannot follow you, good sir. Take it away.
I know. Oh no, Abba's another one. Abba good. This album, I mean, I think the two hits on it were Deacon Blues and Peg. But man, I listen to this stuff. It's like true musicians writing truly developed, kind of amazing music. I'm a shitty guitar player. I'm not going to lie. I get by. I do what I got to do. I know what I need to do. But I listen to this stuff and I wouldn't have a fucking clue how to write this stuff. It's amazing. Simon, I'm losing this transmission. Might have to twiddle the dials a little. The connection to Australia is getting weaker and weaker. Perverted Ceremony, bad. Steely Dan's Asia, good. But yeah, I listen to this stuff and it just kind of blows me away. And for a band that fell on rock radio, they're not they're one of those bands that like shift in between styles. They're not really rhythm and blues. They're not really rock. They're not really jazz. They're all of it kind of together. It's really bizarre to me. And the songs are good. The Donald Fagen's vocals are unique. And, you know, I don't know. This album really tapped into the nostalgia for me, and it's been fun listening to it. And the musicians on Steely Dan albums are real. Yeah, man. I mean, there's no fucking around. There's no denying. You know what, Rick? This is true. I decided I was going to pick this album up, and I've been looking in the store here in town with a bunch of used records. This never turns up used. And when it does, it's brand new and $50 fucking dollars. You know, fuck off. Thankfully, Chuck from over at Metal Madness 66, he happened to have a copy. I asked at the right time. He had this copy has been heavily partied on. It skips and pops and farts, but it gets the job done. It gets me where I need to go with this record. I've listened to it a lot. See, I'm in the wrong. We've got one record store in town, Eric, and it's a really nice store, but it's way overpriced. It's all online pricing and no metal section. But anyway, see, recording of the Asia documentary as well. I have to check that out. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird thing to end on, but I've been getting a shit ton of enjoyment from this album here the last couple of weeks. I've listened to it a lot. I put it on, it mellows me out. I just sit there and tap my toe, stare at the record going around. Takes me back to a simpler time, I suppose, but pure nostalgia, but it's super talented and good stuff. I'm not gonna sit here and try to sell to anybody because I know, like I said, I'd beat my own damn ass if I could as a teenager, but this is the way it goes.
Nah, that's cool if you dig it.
Yep.
Yeah, I've just been over here in the chat seeing how many different doom metal band names I can come up with that are, adjective the religious figure name. I'm up to about 6 new ones so far. It's kind of fun. All right, I'm also going to end on something a little different. And somebody mentioned this band earlier in the chat, but I kind of missed the comment. I recently, this CD is not in good shape, but it was only a couple of bucks at the used bookstore. I picked up a copy of The Cure's The Head on the Door.
Good album.
It is a good album, and it's one that doesn't get mentioned in their catalog a whole lot. People talk about, the early ones like 17 Seconds a lot, Pornography, Disintegration, of course. Great, and they should. They're amazing albums, don't get me wrong. But I always liked this one a lot too. It's got some really, really nice tracks on it. I like Push quite a bit. It's got that really beautiful guitar line to it. In Between Days is good. Kyoto Song is good. The Blood is cool. 6 Different Ways is cool. A Night Like This, it's one of their, it sounds, a little more their lighter, happy sound coming through a bit at times, but still quite well done. So, yeah, the booklet's all warped, with water, moisture exposure and stuff, but it's in the used bookstore. Like, to heck with it. I don't have that one on CD. I'll give a few bucks for it. It's not a bad little treat, Charlie Brown. It just needs a little love, and I can give it that. Absolutely. A good overlooked Cure album.
I really like the depressive Cure, and when were on Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, or it was like Happy Go Lucky. Mm-hmm. I don't like it as much, but like albums like Faith and Carnage Visors are super depressing, and that's where they really, in Disintegration is one of those albums. It rips into your soul and shakes out all your demons and holds it in front of your face type of stuff. It's so good.
Yeah, the funny thing about Disintegration is it does that, but the music is like so ornate and beautiful while it does that. Whereas like Pornography does that, and the music is like, the soundtrack to, a fucking human sacrifice in the middle of a, hell pit at night. The music on Pornography is so jarring. It fits that, just suicidally depressive stuff. Disintegration is just gorgeous sounding, and has, but it has this real sad melancholy, to it as well. The happy poppy albums, they're very good at that style.
They are.
They really are. It's just, it is. if you're used to the other style, it's very jarring to then go hear, Friday I'm in Love and stuff like that. But they were very good at writing those style of songs. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just you have to be in a completely different headspace to listen to Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me than to listen to, Faith or Pornography or something like that. It was later in their catalog and it's not related. I thought the Blood Flowers album was very good. It kind of blended a lot of their material really well and was a very strong comeback. I didn't like the self-titled one very much for some reason, but Blood Flowers I ranked really high in their discography too.
A lot of Cure fans in the crowd here, it seems like, which is cool.
Good, absolutely. It's one of those bands that kind of timeless in a way. They appeal to a lot of folks of a lot of different ages who are typically fans of other styles of music. So yes, we end with a little, Robert Smith. Channel a little older South Park there. Robert Smith becomes like, the giant mecha that fights Godzilla or something, which is absolutely awesome as a concept.
Well, everybody, we
done.
did 3 hours. We showed you guys a lot of music, and hopefully it'll turn some of you on to some new stuff. I'm still trying to work through some of this stuff and a little more familiar with, but that's just the way it goes. You get a little older and you start buying more and more and more music. You don't spend as much time with it as you should, but
that's a real thing.
It's a thing for sure. But let's recap. We've got tomorrow night over at Metal Madness 66, myself, Matt from The Dark Path, Devin from Maze of Torment, and Jeff himself, Metal Madness 66. We will be doing a deep dive, Jeff's deep dive series of the band Voivod. Should be a lot of fun. We're going through Warren Payne to the Outer Limits. Should be a good time. So check out Metal Madness 66 for that. We also, Jurgen says he just ordered the Steely Dan album. Great.
No, come back, Jurgen. Don't go into the light.
Hopefully better than the Vinder album. Well, I figured you'd like that, but you did not. So you'll probably really want to brain me with after hearing Steely Dan, because it's not what you think it's going to be. Anyway,
Marty, you just said international relations back 20 years.
I did. I'm sorry. Forgive me, Jurgen. Anyway, Metal Madness 66, and we've got Heavy Metallurgy shirts available still. I forgot to put the link in the description, but it is shop.bindandrecordings.com. It's up on the main page. Alan is modeling, right? We need to invest in a sexier model, but Alan.
Hey, I heard that. In through the ears, straight to the feelings.
Oh yes, tomorrow night the Voivod thing is at 9:00 Eastern time. Yes, Nichachuan pre-order for Kana Black, which is, if this album does not end up on some people's album of the year, the world is truly broken, because so good. What else? Oh, Austin from Panopticon is doing a t-shirt for charity for Ukrainian families that have been displaced by war. Go over to the official Panopticon website, web shop. What else? Next week, I think.
Is that now? I will be out of the loop next week. I've got some family stuff I've got to tend to. So, but Marty's working on something that's going to be very, very cool.
Yep, I'm pretty sure it's happening. King is coming back. I think him and I.
You wanted the best. You got
the best. Yep. We're going to go through the Kiss discography. I'm going to try to get Zoller on for that as well.
You might just lose your mind in Heavy Metallurgy Rock City.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to get him in while I can, because I won't be here to enjoy. And that's going to be very cool. I would not have a seat at the table for a deep Kiss discussion anyway. So yeah, it's a great time for you guys to go nuts with it. It'll be a good show.
It'll be a lot of fun. King and I are both pretty passionate fans about that band, which always feels gross to say, but it's fucking true, I guess.
Nothing wrong with that. I actually, again, I only know sort of, the surface level stuff, but I did actually manage to put a Kiss joke in my paleontology exam question that I was writing today. I shit you not. I had a question about pterodactyls, and one of the questions explain which of the following happened to pterodactyl evolution. between the Triassic and Jurassic periods. I'm not making this shit up, folks. And if any of my students happen to be listening, okay, great. You get a preview of a test question for next week. Because yeah, pterodactyls change from the Triassic to Jurassic period. But one of their answer options they can choose if they want to. I wouldn't recommend it, but they can choose the option that says by the Jurassic, pterodactyls could not stand the screech of a guitar, which allowed members of KISS to save Santa from their nest. KISS saves Christmas. Everybody knows it. Everybody loves it.
Hey, Maya, I don't know if you've heard the new Nachachwan song. Go over to decibel.com. And last week or this week, Monday, they debuted a new song. It's on. You go click on that. You go to the link. It's even better than the one we. It's oh my god, the whole album fucking rules, man. It's gonna be people are gonna dig it. But anyway, we made it. Next, I don't know if it's gonna be Wednesday or not, but the glorious album club is gonna be dissecting the Wasp Unholy Terror. Is that right?
Unholy Terror, yep. 2001.
2001 Unholy Terror album. I don't know if it'll be next Wednesday or the week after. We will see. Again, we're going to get Alan on some of these one of these days when he is available, but he's in a busy time. Oh, and we're also going to work on his wife Mel to come in and do a Blind Guardian deep dive. Won't that be good?
That will be fun if she wants to. We'll see.
If she wants to.
We'll see if she's into it. I'll work on that.
But okay, everybody, thank you so much for hanging with us. It was a great turnout tonight. Thank you for keeping the chat hopping, and we really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Everybody take care and have a good weekend.